Welcome to another episode of A Come Together. So, depending what the tone of the conversation I want to be, I'll start off the podcast with either an introduction or just start talking like this, like myself. So, dude, tell me about yourself. A little bit about yourself, and then I'll kind of we'll dive into it.
Where to start?
What's your name? Where are you from?
My name is Shlomy. I'm from Savannah, Georgia.
Oh, I'm sorry, and I want to clarify, real quickly, that I'm happy to discuss a lot of Jewish topics, but I want to clarify when we talk about them, not just to refer to them in the Hebrew or Jewish term, but to be able to express the whole concept if possible.
Okay.
Yes, so from Savannah, Georgia.
From Savannah, Georgia. Born and raised there. My father's the rabbi there since I'm a baby.
Yeah.
I'm 44 years old.
You're in school?
I went back to school.
Which is awesome, by the way.
I mean, where do you want me to start? Now?
I don't know.
Go backwards?
I don't know. Whatever you want. Why don't you tell me about why you went back to school? Was it a hard choice? Because I know that it seems a lot more daunting to me now that I'm almost 30 to decide to go back to school, even for an advanced degree. I just feel like, when am I going to do it? How am I going to have the time? What's going?
First of all, there's time. It's a couple hours.
A week.
Yeah. I mean, if I did a double program, which is I'm finishing in 18 months, something I should have taken 3 years. So, which means I just have a double load. So it's instead of like 2 hours of classes a week or 3, it's 6-7 hours a week
of classes that you're in Zoom and in the class for.
Yeah. And then papers and whatever,
How's the education?
It's good.
Yeah.
I'm in Yeshiva University, Wurzweiler.
Mm-hmm.
It's great. It's a little bit woke, to be honest.
Really?
I mean, social work. I went for social work. So the reason I went back to school,
I've heard it's a very woke industry. Right?
It is. Like that's why I challenged one of my teachers one time, and I said, like, you're not making therapists, you're making activists. Like that's what I felt like. Everything was about.
What were
racism.
they doing? What were they doing to?
It was like cultural diversity and racism and cultural sensitivity, which is important in therapy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to know who you're talking to. If you're talking to a black person from the hood, you have to understand where he's coming from, what his life is like,
sure,
how it's totally different than your life, and to be able to relate on that.
Can you?
Yeah, I think you could.
Mm-hmm.
But sitting there for 5-6 hours going through how terrible the United States is and how racist they were, and systemically racist, and we're all, if you think about it, a little bit racist in our hearts. It's, and that's, I remember I heard like a comedian one time, it was like, racism is like hunger. Like sometimes you're hungry, but not right now. Like, but if a cheeseburger cuts you off in traffic, all of a sudden you're hungry.
Yeah, that's right.
It's so it's one of those things. Like, I have nothing against any other race or culture or anything, but growing up in rural Georgia, like black people did not, especially if you went on the wrong side of town to MLK Boulevard.
Mm-hmm.
It was like you needed a police escort to get out of there.
Really?
So
in Savannah,
downtown Savannah.
How far was that from where you were growing up?
Like 15 minutes.
By walking or driving?
Driving.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty far removed in terms of like.
I was in Baltimore's like that also.
Yeah.
Greensboro, Far Rockaway's like that. You know?
Yeah.
Like you go after Beach 9th, you go to Beach 11th.
Yes,
you're in the hood.
Yeah.
So
Manhattan's like that.
Right.
I mean, depending, different parts of it. Yeah.
But how I view it is like it's it's not that I don't like black people at all. And I don't know what we're talking about racism, but like
that's okay. We can talk about it because it's has to do with social work.
I know the best people I know are black people. Like in my father's shul, there's 3 black families who are Megayer. They converted.
That's cool, really.
And they're the best. They're the best people I know.
Really,
they're better than anyone who is from birth, white. They're so sincere. They're so genuine. They'll do anything for anyone.
You think because it takes so much authentic enthusiasm and passion and love for it that you wouldn't be converting otherwise? Like, you're making a serious commitment if you're black and you're joining a typically stereotypically, especially in America, enormously white
I would
community.
think
Because
that.
even if they're not white, they're Arabic. You know, they're not.
I would think that, but like one of the guys, he's an ex-Marine.
Yeah,
Actually, he doesn't like that. You're never an ex-Marine.
you're always
You're
Marine.
always a Marine.
Yeah,
So he's a Marine. Like he
you
was a
finish your
Marine in the
service,
'80s. He went into Grenada, like that. Those Marines. His wife was the one who wanted to be MacGyver. He had zero interest.
and he went along for the ride.
Not only did he go along for the ride, but he's like firmer than she is.
Really?
Once he started learning Torah, once he started like going to classes and everything, like he loves it. He loves it.
It's really interesting.
And so that's what I mean. It has nothing to do with the color of the skin. I think it's cultural. It's culture, and the black culture is no fathers. You know, they grow up on the streets. Education isn't important to them. It's like kill or be killed. That's the mentality there.
Yeah.
And honestly, and so it's not about their skin color. It's just if they would be taken out of the hood and put somewhere else, they'd be the best people in the world.
Right.
So, and I honestly, if you think about it, like I've thought about this, it comes from Noach, right? Noach had Shem, Cham, and Yafes,
Okay.
right? His three sons. Cham is the father of black people. His curse was that his skin turned black, right?
Okay.
That's what Rashi says.
Okay.
And if you look at what Cham did, what did Cham do? He had no busha, he had no shame, and he had no respect for his father, right?
In the incident where Noach was
He's rolling
trashed
around
and
drunk in
rolling
his
around
tent.
drunk, yeah, and then there's
Cham
different extents,
comes.
there's different interpretations as to what it meant that
He may have castrated
he
him,
may have
whatever.
castrated, he may have
But like the simple understanding is that Cham saw
his father
his
naked,
father naked,
which is not.
and not only like Shem and Yafes, right?
They would
Yafes
turn.
being the father of all Greece and Rome and
Yafes
white
is
people.
derived from the word yafeh,
Right.
literally from beautiful. Yeah.
So Cham, his response was like, "Oh shit, dog! Look at that! How stupid!" Right? And he's like, he went out and got them to look.
Yeah.
So those two things are like almost ingrained in his DNA. These kids have no fathers. It's a father issue, right? They have zero respect for their father, either because they're locked up or their father.
Do you learn statistics in school? Like when you learn about these about
Like
minority
P-values.
communities and stuff like that, do you learn about statistics as to whole families and complete families, stuff like that? Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Like they try
What
to
other
blame
what other
white
communities
people.
are like that?
None. Asians are so family oriented. Indians,
Hispanic are very family oriented.
Hispanics are so family oriented. They have four generations living together. Chum,
So
they have no fathers. They're all raised by their mamas, right? And that's why a kid is called a baby. Like the mother's called his baby mama. It's not even it's not even a wife. They're all like so many of them are born out of wedlock. And that's it. If they could just get those two things together,
right,
have a little bit of shame, right? They're all like, yo, they wear like. That's why they make $1,000. It's in their grill and their teeth, and they get a chain, right? And they get spinning wheels on their cars. It's a lack of busha. It's a lack of shame, and coupled with the fact that they don't have fathers. Like
you don't think that they could be overcompensating for coming from a modest or poor background, that you overcompensate, and the second you get money you just kind of lose, I know that, for example, like
Asians
I'm never responsible with my tax returns, right? Like I'm never responsible, like every year when I get my tax returns, and like some years it's more than others, but like it rarely is spent responsibly. When I get an immediate deposit of cash, I have
so you might
an urge to be irresponsible.
You
right?
might spend it irresponsibly, but are you spending it in a braggadocious way?
Right.
Are you bragging? Do you
Depends
want
what.
everyone to see? That's shame.
I don't want to admit that I do, but I'm sure I certainly do. We all do. We all wear a watch that costs more than any watch needs to cost, and we all drive cars that cost more than cars need to cost. And
okay, but
you
don't see that there's a different level. Like
I do. By the way, I'm not even.
By the way, yes.
I
lived in the five towns, and these Jewish people were driving around like right when they made their deal.
A lot of them are living on credit card debt.
They have a Bentley now. They have like the newest Rolex or whatever it is, Frank Mueller watch and Gucci and everything. Yeah, I think that's also I call that, I say you're schwarzer rich.
Right.
Like you make some money and like you display it for everyone. It's a lack of tznius.
That's
That's
what.
why,
Right.
by the way,
So
when everyone, all these rabbis who are like saying, "Oh, tznius, tznius, tznius," your wife was her thing above her elbow, below the elbow, in the middle of the elbow, knee, up above the knee, lower, and like that. And meanwhile, half of these guys who are saying this live in these crazy mansions, drive these crazy cars. The Torah says "v'hatzne leches,"
can you
right?
translate that?
It means that you should walk with God with tznius, with modesty,
Modest.
which
And
means don't brag, don't show off everything that you have. And it goes for women and it also goes for men.
yeah.
And it's financial and it's also bodily.
Right.
So it's almost
Modesty.
hypocritical that like these yeshivas are taking all this money from the biggest like
Mhm.
lack of tznius, lack of modesty people who have they show off the most. It's almost like it's the opposite
By the way,
of
it's
preaching.
also it's funny. I don't. I mean, part of I have this experience all the time, and I actually have a back and forth fight about it with myself inside. But there's a concept in Judaism called Meiser that you give 10% of your income to charity, um, and especially there's particular times there's campaigns going around where like my Chabad that I went to camp in Binghamton was incredible. They changed so many people's lives. They were such a they are an overwhelming source of inspiration, good values, grounded people, and they serve as like the amount of people that they impact relative to how many people they have on staff. Excuse me, how many people they have on staff there is monumental. And so I give a donation, and and there's always that little checkbox marked, do this anonymously or not, and like you always have like a little like conflict inside, like do I mark it anonymous and like no one knows that like I gave $300, $400, $500, $1,000, $1,500, whatever it is, or do you do you let people see that that's what you're giving, and it's really interesting that it's such a temptation, because
It's a huge temptation.
I know, and I would say I'm not that kind of guy, and I'm not that kind of guy, but I'm still tempted to be that kind of guy. Like it's I think that there's a natural desire to kind of display prominence and
I think it's everybody has a natural desire to be somebody, right?
yeah,
We all want to be somebody.
yeah,
And I honestly think if it's that's like why there's so much depression and anxiety in today's world is because we've been taught that the way to become somebody is
to be a
to be
celebrity.
rich, is to be have money and luxuries. And that's it. Like you watch a Lexus commercial,
Yeah,
you watch a Breitling watch commercial. It's like this is the epitome of you've made it. Yet there's so many ways to be somebody. You could do chesed. You could be a teacher,
right.
right? You could, and you're actually somebody. If you're a teacher, you could affect thousands and thousands of lives. If you're a
But
good
you have to be a
teacher,
martyr because you don't make any money.
but
And
it's
like,
why
how are
is
you
it a
gonna
martyr?
live? I
Let's
can't.
say,
If I was a teacher, I wouldn't be living here.
but you have to recalibrate. What does it mean to live? Like, do you need
Okay,
all this
afford a
stuff?
home. Yeah,
Okay, so you need a house.
you need a house.
You need a house. And you need a vehicle.
The way I was thinking about this, by the way, I was thinking. So where I teach, it's a Jewish private school. So there's none of the public school benefits, right? Um,
You don't get insurance or anything.
I think full-time employees get insurance.
Okay.
I'm part-time, but and I think full-time gets 401k match maybe, but you don't get a lot of the benefits from the public system, which is fine. But I know a lot of teachers, for example, will work full-time in public school, and then they'll come teach 3 or 4 classes in the afternoon, make an extra 20, 30 grand. And what they're doing is they're making 70 grand or 80, 60, 70 grand on their salary. They got their pension. They don't pay taxes because they're teaching, they're public school teachers. And then, and then they're making an extra $20,000 teaching in the afternoons. They're making $90,000 with benefits, a pension, 401k match, and no taxes. That's the equivalent of making $140,000 if you're anywhere else. Like, and so these people are living. I think that you really could ostensibly make a good living being a teacher,
And it's not even a good
but
living, but like when you say martyr, I think you have to rethink because we all want to be rich. We all want to have all the
we,
luxuries. We want to be able to go to Israel for on Sukkot and stay at the King David.
by the way, I don't know if that's even the case.
No,
I don't. That kind of stuff doesn't tempt me. But the kind of stuff, but I do. To me, money is a vehicle to being able to do what I want to do, and I don't want to not be able to do what I want to do. Now, it happens to be I'm a pretty simple person, right? What I want to do is I want to teach, I want to play guitar, I want to do a podcast, and I want to go for jogs and have a small community that I'm close with. Like those are my values.
That's it. You go back to simplistic basics,
I'm
and you'll
exactly
be
where
happy.
I could be here for the rest of my life and just build on what this is right now and be the happiest person on the planet.
So then you're good.
Yeah. Um, yeah. And then there are things I like, right? I like craft beer. I spend $30 on a bottle of beer that's smaller than a bottle of wine, which is ridiculous, but it's barrel aged in bourbon barrels for 2 years, and it's 14% with caramel and chocolate, and I think it's delicious, and it's one of those things I love.
And you're
But
allowed luxuries, but that's a luxury that like you're not
I have to be disciplined. I'm very hard about being
displaying to
disciplined about it.
everybody.
Yeah.
You're not.
Yeah. It's not a show off thing.
That's what I'm saying. The showing offness is like what's making everybody miserable.
Yeah.
And
Social media
they're
destroyed
looking at
that.
what everyone else has and the richest people, and these are what they're taking from. So whatever. I mean, anyway, back to school.
Yes, back to
I'm
school.
not racist. I truly.
You think that it's not. You don't
One of
think
my
it's healthy
dreams is
anymore.
to change the whole dynamic of Black culture.
Okay.
Like I've been following this woman. It's called the Compassionate Prison Project, and she goes into the hardest craziest lockdown prisons for murderers, the
Yeah.
works. And she goes into the yard, and they all stand in a circle, and then she reads off a list of things that could cause childhood trauma. And it was like if your mother ever beat you
Mm-hmm.
till you had marks on your body, step forward. And
Yeah.
like half of the hundreds of people who were in step forward.
Yeah.
If you grew up in poverty and didn't know where your next meal was going to come from,
Step forward.
And she's like, guys, you're all traumatized. And trauma, the effects of trauma cause you to have like this distorted view on reality. And that if you would have you're so hardened because of your trauma. And if you'd be able to work on your trauma.
Do you think that's true? Because I feel like a lot of people would say that's already woke. I don't think that's
so,
true.
but
But
that's what I'm
anyway,
saying.
I don't think so either. It's such a fine line. But I think that a lot of people would push back.
You don't understand the ghetto and the hood. That's what I'm saying.
I don't, by the way.
It's so bad. It's so bad. It's not,
I grew up
it's
in
not a
the
life that you could ever
safest.
imagine. Right.
I grew up in the safest upper middle. When my parents moved in, it was just straight classic middle America, and then became more wealthy over time. But
This is Muncie?
yeah, it was the Hills. Yeah, but my parents bought their first house for $200,000 under foreclosure, but it was a 4-2 in a neighborhood that no one lived anywhere near, and my mom hated it for the first 5 years that they were living there.
That's all Jewish, right?
And now it's all Jewish, yeah. But it took 30 years of them living there. I mean, how many people are devoted to anything for 30 years? In anything.
Right.
In their careers, in their marriage, in their in religious affiliation, in any commitment. How many people are committed to anything for 30 years?
It's true.
So I feel like if you stick around long enough, then I feel like the key to success has always been to just be disciplined enough to hang around for a little longer than everyone else. And like where everyone else calls it quits, and like like they just like, okay, I'm done. Like if you just go another day longer, another episode more, another call, and one more sales call, one more hustle, one more. I'm so tired. Let me just go wash that last dish. Like that's all the difference in like your marriage when your wife wakes up and like the sink is empty as opposed to being full. I mean that's
That's true.
It changes everything. So like I feel like the people that are the most successful at anything just kind of outlast everyone else. So
I don't think it's woke to say that.
I don't think so either. By the way, I just think that people would say that, and I would like. What do you think?
So
What would you say to them?
Wrong. Maybe
No. I think you're right. But what would you
like
say
I'm
to
not
people?
calling them victims that they're like need extra special treatment.
Right.
But like they need to be taught to.
They have trauma. They need to taught how to. Everyone needs to be taught the tools that it takes to be a person.
They have no resiliency, and that's a trauma. I think to me is in Hebrew. There's a lot of words for a fool, right?
Yeah.
There's like a kasil.
Yeah.
There's a shota.
Yeah.
And one of the words is pesi.
Okay.
Right? Like Torah Hashem Tamima Machkimas Pesi.
Okay.
Which means it makes a pesi, which is a fool, wise. But pesi, Rabbi Hirsch, if you look at him, it comes from the word pitom, sudden. right? Like a
Right.
sudden startle.
The same. It's the same root. It's a so like all words.
Right.
You
It's
know,
all from the
they
same
have
root.
certain roots that have certain contexts.
Right.
And
So
if
the
you,
root
yeah,
for this word of a fool, which is why I think the more accurate translation would be an addict or somebody, meaning they're startled. They're thrown off kilter
right,
from the smallest thing,
right.
right? And like,
Wow, that's such an interesting way of putting it.
and that's why it says Shomer Pesayim Hashem in Tehillim, which Rav Moshe Feinstein said about smokers in the 60s when he asked, could you smoke? And he said, these people are, it's Shomer Pesayim Hashem, which
Right,
means
they're
Hashem
addicts.
will
Protecting them.
guard the fools. But Pesayim, from that same word, Pesi,
Right.
which is an addict, meaning Hashem is he'll protect you from your addiction or whatever he was saying.
Yeah.
But it's a trauma response. It's not having resilience. It's being startled easily and triggered, right? And that's what happens. I've been in the ghettos, and you look at someone wrong, you make eye contact with one of these guys, and you hold it for too long. It
It's
is to them, it's a sign of disrespect, and they will kill you.
it's a threat.
It's a threat to them, and it's just like that's why I was always taught, like, first of all, like, keep your eyes down. Number one, like, if you see someone, just like put your eyes down immediately. It's a sign of respect,
Yeah.
right? And always be like, if someone steps up on you, put your hands up like this, like open hands.
Yeah,
Like,
so that
I'm
you're not,
a threat.
yeah, no,
I'm not
yeah.
holding anything. I'm not a threat. Like, come on, come on.
Yeah,
Put
I
your
don't
hand
want to do
down.
anything. Right.
But it's showing you how bruised only people who respond like that have the biggest bruises on their egos.
Right. They're so hurt.
So it would take a long time. I don't think you should just be woke. The answer, I think woke may have diagnosed the problem properly, but they don't have the right prognosis.
They've never had the right prognosis.
I know.
Unfortunately. By the way, because the only reason I say unfortunately is because I would love for any answer. Like, I don't care where it comes from. I mean,
I think it all started from Jews. By the way, every single social worker who's ever and therapist, and starting from Freud, they were Jewish. It's compassion. This whole field is chesed and rachmanis.
yeah, but it's interesting because chesed, which is translated as charity, if taken too far, turns out to be one of the most, like, kindness taken too far turns out to be one of the most dangerous.
It's the worst thing.
Yeah, this is actually funny because I mean, from a Jewish lens and from a Torah lens, the Torah uses the word chesed when referring to someone sleeping with their sibling, and that's
It's the greatest kindness you can do.
right.
Yet it's the
The
nastiest
most sick,
thing.
disgusting thing you could do.
But that's what they always say in the Eitz Chaim, the tree of life, in the Kabbalistic, whatever you want to call it, chakra, right?
Yeah.
You have chesed that's tempered with gvura, right? Gvura is the opposite of chesed.
What's gevura?
It's restraint.
Gevura is strength.
They say strength, but it's not really strength.
So what's the translation? What's the context?
Restraint. It's withholding.
It's restraint despite being prompted. Like, because it doesn't take strength to be resilient when there's no pressure, but it takes strength when your kid's pissing you off to not yell at them and to talk nicely to them.
Right.
So that would be the gevura that you're talking about. That's the translation.
But too much of gevura, and that's why they say that Avraham was chesed.
Yeah.
Right, but chesed without tempering makes one of his bad seed was Yishmael.
Yeah.
And Yishmael is they have this, they have 70 virgins, right, when they die, and it's all like this chesedic, it's this kindness based, out of control.
How is that based? How is that out of kindness though? I
mean, Yishmael, it's a very it's very sexualized. Like they even say they have polygamy, they have a lot of wives. Their entire martyrdom is based on 70 virgins. It's just this, like, I mean, how to explain kindness in Yisrael?
Well, because the root, I know that the root of kindness, right, in terms of just the root word of it is kin, right, which is like family, and when you treat someone with kindness, you're treating them as though you're your kin, right, you're caring for them in such a way that this is the way that you would treat someone that you authentically love. And if you treat a stranger with kindness, why are they so baffled by that, or why does it mean so much to people? It's because you got treated like a relationship that you didn't do much to deserve, and that kind of throws you off tilt a little bit. You're like, why are you being like, I don't know you don't know me, why are you being so good to me? Why are you treating me like I'm one of your family, one of your own? And it kind of all goes back to that way that, we're all tribal in the sense that we grew from from little communities of little tribes, and that's how we learn to interact best, and that's what we do all the time, and like, it's funny. I was talking to my students about this. I'm trying to explain to them, people are tribal about everything. And like, there's just different degrees of how far out you want to zoom. You want to go to a country, you're tribal about the fact you're American. You're tribal about your religion. You're tribal about the fact you're Jewish or you're Christian or you're a Muslim, you're a Hindu or whatever it is. And then even within those factions, right? You got
families.
Yeah, you got families. You got different interpretations. You got different sects, and then even those sects within one another treat each other badly, right? Because we're all tribes within a tribe, and so. So that's why it's such a shock, and that's why I think kindness is such a hard thing it's such a hard call to action for a lot of people, because we're asking people to go beyond their nature, where we're used to looking at people that we're not familiar with as a potential threat, and to not treat them that way. And then how do people respond with that, to that? Now I'm in the business, I'm in the sales and business world, and one of the first things my dad told me when I started working with him was like, never, ever underestimate the amount of liars and thieves and cheats that are out there, because these guys will be your best friend for 10, 15, 20 years, and they'll ask for credit one time, a hookup one time. I'll tell you, like, I've known you for so long, I'm not going to screw you for this, and disappear, and that's the end of it, and
Oh, he told you that?
he did tell me that.
That's important.
It's real. I mean,
I've been so screwed before.
have you?
Yeah.
I there are customers now where what I'll say to them, like, for example, the most common line I hear from a customer is, "Oh, you give me a good deal, I'm going to come back and I'm going to buy a ton of equipment from you," and I'm like, "How about this?" I was like, "I'm going to give you a total of a 30% discount. The first deal that you buy from me is 100%. If it's regular wholesale value, the next time you come to me, it's 15% off. The next time you come to me, it's 20% off, and you're going to get that 30% off the same way, whether you like it or not. Sorry, you're going to get this. You're going to get 30% off, but I want to make sure that you're going to come back to me. It's not coming off the top.
Smart.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't think about it, but that's what mortgage companies do, right? You pay your interest before you pay your principal. Because they're like, let me just make all that cash first, and then all the money first. So so you grew up in Georgia, in Savannah. When did you leave Georgia for the first time?
I went to Yeshiva. There was no Jewish high school there, so I went to Yeshiva when I was 14. I got sent to Philadelphia.
Was it hard leaving home?
Yeah. It was hard, I mean, on a lot of levels, because like most of my friends growing up were not religious. I went to a mixed school. I had girls in my class until 8th grade.
Right.
And then I went.
It's pretty uncommon for a rabbi's son.
I mean, there's nothing else there.
Right.
I mean, I only had 2 girls in my class.
Right.
And
small
3
Jewish
guys.
schools, right? Yeah.
But it was hard, like going to all boys school, and it was like this yeshivish mentality that I had no understanding of.
Right.
Which honestly seemed like it was almost like a different religion to me.
It feels like it, right?
I sometimes think that. I still think that.
Well, I don't even think that it isn't, but I mean, it is. It is the same religion, but it's in that same, returning to that tribal idea. It's just as like, I think more people treat it like a tribe than they do like being under one umbrella.
Okay, but I don't have a problem necessarily with the tribalism of it, but it's more of like the external judgment of it.
Yeah.
It's like you need to look a certain way, either with like payas or like shaved hair or white shirt, black pants, tzitzis hanging out, and they need to be able to like look at you and be like, okay, check, you're good.
Yeah.
It's almost like an external immediate judgment.
Yeah.
And they don't go into like the depth of who you are. It doesn't matter. It's just you have to look the part, and there's very little about the depth of who someone is. So I don't know. It's like, are you there at Shachris on time? You have to do all like the outward things that make you part of that group. You're wearing a blue shirt, like, wow, it's going, who is he? Like, people start talking, what? Who cares? Like, I don't know. So it was a culture shock.
How long did it take for you to get used to it? How long were you there for?
I don't think I ever got used to it. I
You
was there
never
for
got used
seven
to it.
years. I don't think I ever got used to it.
7 years is a long time to not get used to something.
I know.
You never did you ever feel comfortable in that? Like, did you get comfortable at a certain point in the sense that like you just knew what you were dealing with and like you figured out how to maneuver within that system?
Yeah, I mean, I look back at it now and I feel like if God forbid I was ever sentenced to 10 years in prison, I would totally be comfortable after a few years and know the ropes,
Right.
but I'd still be in prison.
I think a lot of life is like that, right? Like people don't like the change, but once the change happens, we're pretty good at adapting to it.
Right, right.
Like you wouldn't like we're very bad at voluntarily putting ourselves in scenarios where we have to change. But then when we do, we do.
That's Viktor Frankl's whole book, Man's Search for Meaning. Like, you ever read that?
I've read most of it.
Like, it's he found meaning and purpose, and he found his groove in Auschwitz.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, yeah, we could adapt to any situation.
That may be one of the craziest stories of all
I
time, by the
know,
way.
but my point is, it's not ideal. It's not ideal. But yeah, I mean, so you asked me, did I ever get used to it? Did Viktor Frankl, I mean, ever get used to Auschwitz? Kind of, but he was
Right,
very
you're able to
happy.
operate within it, but it wasn't the scenario you wanted to be in.
Right, right, right. I didn't understand it. It was just,
So you get out. So you get out. You're 21.
mhm.
What do you do?
um, then my father, he went to Mir Yeshiva in Brooklyn.
Which is a very prestigious place, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's not as prestigious as Philadelphia,
Okay,
but like it was a step down.
really?
Yeah.
From Philly?
Hmm.
Okay.
I mean, that's what they say. But my father was very close with Reb Shmuel Birnbaum. He
Okay.
was a close student of his. I was the last son. I have two older brothers, and he asked me like before I go to Israel if I would go to Brooklyn and learn for a year under Reb Shmuel Birnbaum. So I did that.
It means a lot to your dad that you do that, right?
Yeah,
It would mean a lot to him that you did that. It
it
does.
did mean a lot. And honestly,
Did you not want to?
I mean, at that point, I didn't care. Like as long as I was out of Philadelphia, like I really didn't care
Did you fight to get out of Philadelphia earlier?
when I was younger.
As in, like anywhere
I didn't fight
along those 7 years, at any point you were like, "Listen, I just don't like it here. Can I go?"
every year.
And what was the answer? It's good for you to be there.
Yeah.
That's So sometimes that really is the truth, though. Like so when I was in high school, I went to all boys school for 2 years that I hated, and then I switched to a mixed school, and I mean that's not what made me like it. It definitely had a huge factor because I'm a teenage guy, but my mom fought me tooth and nail to not switch. So, and I wanted to go to this school since eighth grade. So for eighth, ninth, and 10th grade, I fought with my mom about it. And then eventually she gave up. She saw I was really unhappy, and she eventually gave in. Um, and I always tell her, I've concluded, 10 years later, 15 years later, that she was right to force me to start in that school. And I was right that I should have switched over at some point. But it was very important that I started off in a more sheltered, wholesome environment and I was not prepared for the other environment of self-consciousness when it comes to other gender,
Right.
managing classwork while being a social individual, and like I wasn't ready to and trying to fit in, right? And trying to get social approval, which I spent a lot of time trying to do. And if I started doing that since ninth grade, as opposed to starting at 11th grade, I think those 2 extra years, even though I was miserable, were way better for me in the long term than if I had gone my way immediately out of eighth grade.
Absolutely. Yeah. Looking back, I could say that like there was like Philadelphia Yeshiva. It was such a strict school. Like there was nothing. You weren't allowed to have any music, not even Jewish music,
Really?
because Bittul Torah. It was wasting time from learning Torah. We couldn't have any books. Like no,
Wow.
like I remember in ninth grade, I brought Michael Crichton's Jurassic Park and a Garfield comic. and it got confiscated. I got called into the mashgiach's office. I
Like
got,
the principal, yeah.
it
Hmm.
was like, and like even on Shabbos, we weren't allowed to have ketchup and mustard on the table. You had to choose which one because both of them is too much desire.
Really?
That's how the school was. That's what I'm telling you. Like, I was so culture shocked coming from a mixed school.
That's so.
I know, but it was so intense. There was nothing to do in that school, and you were in West Philadelphia.
Where do kids that go to that school and then what do they
They're
end
the
up doing with
biggest
their
rabbis in
lives?
America.
Really?
Yeah, guys in my class are the biggest rabbis now in America.
Wow.
That's why.
Is that is
That's
that?
my mother's
Do
like,
you
I got
want?
you into the school. There's 2,000 people that apply every year for ninth grade, and they accept 20. She's like, you're in. She's like, you'd be crazy to not accept this and go. I got you into Harvard, but it's like, what if you go to Harvard and Harvard's just not for you, and you're just drowning in Harvard?
Then you leave.
You should probably leave, right? But you have a mother who's like, just stay in Harvard.
Yeah,
If you
because
become
you're
a
in
Harvard
Harvard. Yeah.
graduate, it opens up doors, and your whole life could be different,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that's what she wanted. And looking back, at the end of the day, like I don't think I would have learned. Like there's nothing else. I remember being
Was the learning incredible? Do you
crazy.
were your skills extremely sharp at that point? They still
Still,
are.
yeah, yeah.
That, that, that
I
doesn't
could learn with
leave
the
you.
biggest rabbis in the
That
world.
doesn't really.
Hmm. Gemara Be'in.
Do you learn a lot
Yeah, I love it. It's like the only
every
like,
day?
yeah. I learned
Every
my
day.
father, who's the rabbi in Savannah, every day over Zoom
Yeah.
from
For-
12 to 1. And we do
Really?
Kedushin, Be'in, Gemara Rashi Taisus, Rishonim, Achronim, Reb Chaim, Ktsais, Avni Miluyams. Like, do you know these? Have you heard these?
I heard a bunch of them. I can't say I ever have learned them. I'm extremely I am woefully incompetent relative to so many people.
It's not so many people. I was literally taught how to be a rabbi, like how to be a rabbinic leader.
Did you ever
The
think you were going to
rabbi
be?
in
Did you think you were
Hayfeld.
going to be?
No, no, I
You
don't.
never wanted to be,
You know what? I honestly, like, when I was younger, I wanted to go into Kirov
right? Which is outreach, right?
outreach. Like I wanted to be very knowledgeable, but very down to earth.
Like
And
Weinberger
yeah,
from Aish. What's his name?
yeah, Moshe.
Yaakov Weinberger.
Yeah, yeah.
Yaakov Weinberger. Yeah, was incredible because what was so amazing about him was that he was able to take the most philosophically complicated concepts
That's what I
and
wanted to do.
challenging concepts, and
I
he was able to make them accessible to
right.
hundreds of thousands of people.
The most ignorant people have never heard anything.
Yeah,
That's what my father does, by the way.
yeah.
My
That's a
father.
real wisdom.
My father he is a Talmud Muvak, which means like the closest student to Reb Shmuel Birnbaum. And he learned in Kollel until he was 33, became a rabbi in Savannah. Like my father, I have had rabbis who like the head rabbi of the Aguda in Flatbush, who knows my father. He was like, I can't believe your father's still in Savannah. Like your dad could have been the Rosh Yeshiva
Why do you
of
stay?
any
Because he
yeshiva.
loves it.
Because yeah, he likes doing outreach, and he could take the most complicated sugya, right, the most complicated topic of Gemara, with all the Rishonim and Achronim, and present it to the biggest rabbi sitting there, and to like a total redneck who just drove to shul on Shabbos in a Dodge Ram 1500,
Yeah,
right, wearing boots and hats,
yeah.
sitting there, Rabbi, I'm here for Saturday services, and he'll understand the concept of like Hoichem Basarov.
I think that is the ultimate manifestation of what like a true rabbi is.
Agreed. That's what I wanted to do. I thought I'd be a teacher in Isha Torah or Sameach,
Yeah,
if not start my own
yeah. Program.
stuff like that.
So then what? So you ended up going to so
So I went to
you
Brooklyn.
left Philly. You went to Brooklyn for a year.
So Brooklyn, Mir
What was living in
Yeshiva,
Brooklyn after living in Philly like?
it was like freedom.
Really, you liked Brooklyn.
It was like there was nothing, there was no demands on you. There was no. You have to also realize in high school in Philadelphia, the electricity got shut off at 11 p.m. So you couldn't even have like a lamp on, meaning it was lights, it was military, lights out, right? You had to be up at 6:45 for chakras. It was like military lights out. So I remember like everything had to be battery powered, fans, lights, after 11 p.m. till 6 a.m., the electricity was off. I mean, I think the electricity to the air conditioning heat still worked, but otherwise there was no electricity. So I just remember like New York was like to me relatively it was so relaxed, you know. And also Reb Shmuel Birnbaum, he was so he was so like open and loving, and like the rabbis who were in Philadelphia, it was like I mean Reb Shmuel Kamenetsky was very nice, but they were already the biggest rabbis in the world, right? They were the Gedolei Hador.
Yeah.
Reb Shmuel Kamenetsky, Reb Yeshua. So it was like there was almost this reverence to them, like you were afraid to approach them, even though they
Yeah,
were
we were
your
talking about that a
teachers.
little bit. Isn't that weird?
Yeah, I didn't like that. Like now in retrospect, I should have been like, what am I like? I'm paying tuition here. Go talk to them.
I know, but it's hard to do when they're on a pedestal. It's hard to do when you're looking when they're this larger than life. The reputation precedes them, and their stuff. They're literally a stuff of legends, right? Like when you walk around and you hear stories. First of all, there are definitely stories that are absolutely apocryphal about them. That they're born and they're born with circumcised, or that they or whatever. And then you have but legitimately treat them, as they are, but like, and with the reverence they deserve because they are truly greats. But it removes, and by the way, I don't even know that they shouldn't be treated as equals necessarily. Like
You shouldn't be. I
you
don't.
shouldn't be
They
afraid to
shouldn't be
approach them.
equals, but right, you shouldn't be afraid of them. And that's why, by the way, Shlomo Birnbaum was to me on that same level, but he would approach you.
What
That's
do you
what
mean?
was like.
Really? He'd come up to you and
That was what was amazing to me. It was like Shmuel and Rebellia in Philly. It was like you had to wait in line for
you know,
45 minutes to maybe be able to talk to them. And then it's like, let me just wrap up my question really fast and it doesn't come out right.
yeah,
And Shmuel Birnbaum would used to come over to me and grab me by my lapels.
right,
Be like, did you understand the shiur?
yeah,
Did you understand the class? And then he said, like, he made himself approachable.
yeah.
So, like, I enjoyed that a lot. So,
It takes a special person. It takes
but
a
I,
special
but I didn't
person
know
to.
anyone there. Like, and also they looked at me like, what the hell is this Philly guy? It was like the last year. These guys had been together since kindergarten, and this was fourth year of college, right?
Right.
Like fourth year of base medrash. And they're like, what is this like Philly guy coming? And Reb Shmuel Birnbaum loved me because he loved my father, and he was like very happy I was in the class. And like, I think like the guys there thought I was stepping on their toes, and that like they felt threatened by me somehow. I mean, I made a couple of friends there
Is there a way
throughout
to
the
deal with
year.
that? What do you do about that? Oh,
Just I was friends with like younger guys,
yeah.
like first year guys, and I was fourth year, and I don't know. I found a couple people here and there.
And that was for a year in Brooklyn.
Yeah,
And at this point, had you still had your desire to go into outreach, into Kiruv?
I mean, honestly, I'll be
You never really knew what you wanted
no. It was after those years in Philly. Like I think something inside of me broke.
really.
Yeah, it was a long time. It was a long time, and it was
Okay.
it was just like it was never ending. You know,
Right. 7 years. 7 years
'cause
is
I
such
didn't
a
know how
long
long.
time.
Because
Think
like
of your life was 7 years ago.
my parents were there. My parents were the ones who were telling me to stay there, but they never gave me like, oh, stay for high school. Like I had a couple of friends who came with me from Savannah, who were
Really?
like 1 year younger, 2 years younger. They were there for high school, and they left after 12th grade, but they knew that from beginning to end. And then they went to Ner Yisrael in college or whatever. My thing was like open ended.
Right.
Was I going to be there for 4 years, 5 years, six, eight?
10? Yeah.
No, there's no 10. Max was 8. That's why I left a year early.
Wow.
But
So you got out earlier than.
earlier, like
Well, a year's a big deal.
I know, but I think something inside it was just like I was like so there was almost like this repressed like living, and that's why after Brooklyn, I just I
That's a little bit of the pushback that people have on the more.
the system.
Well, the more. Well, I think.
Agreed.
Yeah, it's funny because you don't even call it like. I don't even think it's more to the left or right because I think that.
No,
I think you're
I
right.
think
People
it's
do get stuck in
extreme.
systems, and
It's
people just
extreme
don't
right.
like. Of course, it is, that your particular case is extreme right, but I think that a lot of people feel stuck in the world that they're in, and they feel like there's no way to get out of it. And like if their parents are invested in it, then like that's the only choice that they have, and there's nowhere else for them to go. And a lot of times, they're right because if they go another way, their parents freak out at them. one of the ways that I feel like my parents were great parents were because I'm one of six. All of us ended up totally different. And I'm like, that's how you know that it was good parenting. That like all of us weren't like taught to
Put it
just
into a
be
box.
afraid to be the one person that my dad or my mom is,
Right.
and that all of us were just encouraged to be ourselves. And if so, like and there were times where I did things and my parents would say, like sit me down and be like, listen, I want you to really think about what you're doing before you do it. But like we're ultimately not going to tell you can't do it. You know, we're not going to tell you like if this is what you need to do for yourself and this is your life and this is what you need. We don't think that this is necessarily what's best for you, but you got to do, you know. And I would take what they said very seriously because of that, because they gave me the freedom, and because they said, I'm not holding you back, but but if you value our lives in the way that we have chosen, you know, all the work that we did to raise you the way that we did, then this is antithetical to what we're trying to teach you. And that's a really
That's how my wife was raised. She was raised, and she was like, when I met her parents, I was like, yo, they're so open with like they let you do whatever you want. And she was telling me stories as a kid. But she said to me that like she felt this connection to them that she never ever wanted to do anything that would embarrass like the family name.
is
You know?
interesting.
That like they
Yeah,
raised me a certain way and like, okay, I might go like here or there or this, but like I'll never do that.
yeah,
That would be like
yeah.
that would be shaming my parents,
That's
you
really
know?
interesting.
And I felt like that was really good. It was like a really good upbringing. And it wasn't like you have to do this, you have to do that. It's like do what you want, but like there's certain lines you don't cross.
Yeah,
You know? And listen, my parents meant well. Like I have great parents, don't get
yeah,
me wrong.
yeah,
My
yeah.
mother has like Holocaust trauma, and I love her to death,
Your
but
mother's a Holocaust survivor.
her
Her
parents
parents are. By the way, that
have
that you know you can't compare the obviously, but the kids of people that went through the Holocaust have such a challenging
it's
life.
crazy. It's crazy.
Such a
Like I
challenging
realized
life.
my mother grew up with like zero affection. You
Yeah.
know, her mother worked 16 hours a day. She had like nursing homes in Chicago. She was one of the original nursing home owners in Chicago.
Mm.
Like all the rich nursing
Where's
home
she from?
people.
Skokie?
No, like West Rogers Park.
West Rogers Park. Nice. Yeah, sure.
Her place is Buckingham on Toohey, and it's like a full square block on Toohey, which is like the heart of Rogers Park.
Okay.
That's where like all the schools and all the restaurants and everything. And she got all of these like rich nursing home people today, Glenners, Reichenbachs, whatever, all these names. She like helped them get started in the 60s and 70s.
Really?
She started hers in the 50s.
Wow. Your
But
mom did.
my grandmother,
Your grandmother
my
did.
mom's mom,
Wow.
and that's what
So
she
she
would
came
either
from Eastern Europe.
she said, I'm going to take care of people. She's like, all I saw was death all around me. I'm
You know
going
what's
to keep
amazing?
people from dying.
It's so ironic that that's the reason why she gets into it.
My mother grew up thinking, she said, my mother didn't have any grandparents. They were killed.
Yeah.
And my grandmother told her that all these people in this building are your bubbies and zadies.
That's beautiful.
Like
It's one of the most beautiful things I've ever heard, by
that's how
the
she
way.
grew up. So I mean, my mother has a heart of gold, but it's like
She's trying to do what's right. What she
right,
thinks is the right thing.
right. So I mean, so there's a little coldness towards her children and a little bit of demandingness. You know, as an American kid, especially this is like we're not that far away from being immigrants. You know, my grandmother and grandfather were immigrants,
Yeah.
like not just immigrants, refugees.
Yeah.
So like my mother grew up there, so there's also like a generational shift and a immigration shift.
There's so the weight that the children of Holocaust survivors carried, I don't think is nearly appreciated or discussed
Wow.
enough. My mom is actually so my mom is the youngest in her family, but also both my grandparents are Holocaust survivors. I think she was 12 or 15 years younger than her next youngest sibling.
Oh, wow.
And she's like, thank God that I was the youngest because by the time I came around, her Holocaust survivor parents had were already dealing with teenagers. She was just pretty much flying under the radar the whole time, right? You know, my aunt and uncle were often, being in the 80s, as teenagers, doing whatever they were going to do. And she got to do her own thing, but she's like, but I would witness my grandparent, the way that my grandparents would treat her older siblings. And she was like, there was never the sense of blame. It was a sense of like sadness that this is what their lives had become because of what they went through. Like it was never like, I don't get why you're that way. It's
Okay,
like,
so that works for the children of Holocaust survivors, but the children of the children of Holocaust survivors?
grandchildren, like me and you.
So looking at if our parents are doing the same thing as their parents
Yeah,
did,
yeah.
we don't get it. Like that's what I'm saying. It's difficult for us.
Yes, correct.
Meaning, like
Because
you're
we're
just
privileged. We're
right,
more privileged about
right.
it. And I hate to use like that word in that kind
But
of sense, but it's
it
true.
is,
Like, but we are. We live. Thank God, a million times. And whatever you say about and whatever it is about Savannah is sure as a hell a lot better than, than Eastern Europe.
which I think is another problem with the yeshiva systems that I went to at least. Like they were teaching all my rebbeim, all my teachers were European,
Yeah.
and they were teaching American kids. And I think there was like a little bit of a disconnect. And it's like you're teaching European style,
Yeah.
to American kids, and it's like you have to.
It's still a problem in the school system. I think what's the school system is based on the Prussian system now, like
Okay.
like the classroom and the desk lined up and the bells for in the 40-minute or an hour long class
Well, they
structure.
say they're trying to make you into factory workers, right?
Yeah, yeah. It wasn't meant. I mean, it's yeah. Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts. I have a ton of thoughts on the education system, but
I would love to revamp it. I've thought because
have you? But so how? Because it's so because what happens
it's a
is
toxic system. It's a
I know, but it's
toxic
so
system.
far-reaching, and the implications
Why? Because you
touch.
have to go to college.
No, no,
Everyone's
no, no,
waking up
no,
now
no,
realizing
no, no, no. It's because everything is based on it.
what's based on it. Jobs?
Jobs,
What for? What
school.
a high school diploma?
Yeah.
You can get equivalency. Like I have a daughter who has a little bit maybe ADHD,
Okay.
7-year-old,
Yeah.
and it's when we were in Savannah, she did fine because it was a
Yeah.
really small school, very friendly. Half the teachers were her aunts or uncles. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And here she's just like in this system, and the teacher wants us to medicate her. I don't want to medicate her,
Don't do it,
and
dude.
of course not. And it's just like if I could, I was like, honestly, she's not even learning anything in this class. Like she's in second grade. She comes home, she doesn't even know the parsha. She doesn't like what do. All they're doing is
I've been really flirting with the idea of homeschooling.
me too, and I'm just
I've
like,
really been
I would
flirting with
have
it, and I
much.
can't think of many, especially because what I'd want to do is kind of do like a Jewish school part of the day and then homeschool the rest of the day so that the kid gets social. I think
I think it's a myth about being socially. First of all, if we could get a group of parents who homeschool, and then we're all together,
you could.
or they hang out with each other after, you know what I mean? Like, and
Yeah, you
also
could.
socially, I feel like these schools nowadays, especially like these Jewish schools, like it's almost socially toxic. There's so much bullying. There's so much jealousy. There's so much.
If you don't think it's good to learn to navigate that, I've
I guess, yeah.
I think that resilience is something that's really. I think that kids are resilient, and I think that resilience is taught at a young age.
So let them get bullied and let
No,
them
no, no.
hang out.
I don't mean let them get bullied, but I do think that there's something. The way that Jonathan Haidt describes it, who's a psychologist at NYU. That's not true. I don't know if he's a psychologist. He's a researcher. I don't know if he's a psychologist, but
I'm reading isn't his book Scattered or
no, that
Anxious
Next
Generation?
Generation. Yeah,
I just got that. Yeah, I have to read that.
it's by the way one of the most important books I've ever read
As my
as
sister told me, yeah.
one of the most important books I've ever read as a human being. That's not a Jewish book. Like from my from like, separate like religious like from
Mm-hmm.
most important as like a human being. Even though I don't know if you can, right? But let's just say take out Judaism for a minute. That's like up there with one of the most important. That and to me, The Fountainhead. You ever read The Fountainhead?
Mm-hmm.
You gotta
Who's that
read.
by?
Ayn Rand. It was written in the 50s,
Okay,
maybe
yeah.
even earlier. It was
I mean, I read Atlas Shrugged.
so. This is way better.
Yeah?
Yeah,
What's it called?
in my opinion, The Fountainhead.
Fountainhead?
The Fountainhead is pre Atlas Shrugged. She wrote it before that. You can buy it on Amazon for $5-6. Um,
Putting in my cart.
I haven't, I don't read it. I used to love fiction. I haven't read a ton of fiction because I found that I realized that what I liked is storytelling and storytelling with imagination, like coupled to my own imagination. And I realized that I could just read about anything I'm interested in. It doesn't have to be fiction. Like there's so many nonfiction things that are so crazy and so interesting that I've
Like
been
Jordan
distracted. Yes, I
Did you read
love
12 Rules for Life?
12 Rules for Life. I love 12 More Rules is excellent. I
I bought his God Struggles with Man or whatever his Bible
Yeah,
book.
man. Yeah. What do you think of it? By the way, I think that he has
He has such good insights into Torah.
I was going to say
It's
he has
good psychological insights.
such good insights into
I
Judaism
wanted
and
to print
Torah.
a sefer for Jews called Jordan Peterson a la Torah, and just take all of his biblical ideas.
What do you think the reaction would be to that?
I don't know.
Because he's
Even
so Christian. He's so Christian.
Not really. No, he's not.
He is.
No, he's not.
Okay.
I don't think he is. Even he used to say like he. I don't even know if he. I don't.
He has he.
His whole thing is I believe in God. Like it's. Do I believe in? I act as if there is a God. That's what he always says. I act. I act.
But and I also think that
there is a God.
I also think it's also missing something to it. By the way.
Of course, but I think he's working things out. I could see him converting to Judaism within a few years.
You think so?
Yeah, he's gonna find. He does that whole thing with Exodus.
He's doing amazing things.
With
The things he's finding are directly Torah idea, directly like ancient Torah ideas.
I went to one of his things. He was in Miami Beach, and I got a VIP ticket where I could meet him.
Okay. Did you meet him?
Yeah.
What was it like? What was he like?
It was amazing. I gave him a book from Rabbi Twersky.
Really?
Abraham.
Yeah, sure, of course. Yeah, he's incredible.
And I gave him a book by Rabbi Sachs.
Which
To Heal a Fractured World. It's one of them.
Okay, I loved his books when I was in college. Rabbi Sachs. Yeah,
he's amazing.
What was the big one? The Great Divide, the Great Partnership.
Something like
the Great Partnership with science and religion. He was the first. He was the first big Jewish authority leader in a very, very, very long time to say that science and religion do not conflict with one another, and that they're two sides of the same coin.
I mean, not really.
Well, there was a war.
Hirsch.
Of course, but that was 150 years earlier.
Okay, but you said he was the first. Oh, you're saying modern guy?
First modern guy. Because there was a certain point. So during the mid 1800s, there was an attack on religion.
Right, Maskilim.
Well,
the Malbim...
not just in Judaism, throughout the world, where the world said we have a scientific revolution, we no longer need God, and religion responded by saying, if you don't need us, we don't need you, which is a dumb reaction. The reaction should be, wait, why? What about, and that's what Jonathan Sachs says. He said, the Great Partnership, the way that he describes it is science is the how and religion is the why. The science is the how does this work, and the religion is, okay, now that we understand how this works, what do you do with it? What's the point of it? How does that apply to your life? What's your relationship?
The Zohar talks about the Big Bang.
Yeah.
The Zohar says there was a Nukud Shel Or. There was a dot of light that Hashem expanded into the whole universe.
Yeah.
The Zohar. This is from thousands of years ago.
I was talking about, there was someone, I forgot what the source was. I have to find it for you. But there was a source that, so in Judaism, there's a concept called, Mashiach, which is ultimate savior and the ultimate redemption. And then you have the notion of what we call Melchemes Gog Magog, the war of Gog Magog. And apparently there's an opinion, maybe maybe what it is, that apparently the war is supposed to be 12 minutes.
Yeah.
Right?
Nukes.
What's that from?
The Vilna Gaon said it.
And when did the
Kol Hatar.
When did Vilna Gaon live?
He lived in 1700s.
Okay. There was no such thing as nuclear weapons at the time.
Go back into Navi.
So when he says that there's that the final war before the ultimate redemption is going to be 12 minutes and 250 years before there was nukes, and now we find today we're like, and then we have that person
even further back.
Mm-hmm.
When you read the Haggadah, right before the 10 plagues, it says Dam, V'Eish, V'Simros Ashan.
Yeah.
Right? You know those three
blood,
things?
Yeah, blood, fire, and
pillars
of smoke.
Pillars of smoke.
Yeah.
But a pillar of smoke is like when we were in the desert. It's called an Amud Ha'ashan. A pillar.
Yeah.
What is Timros?
I don't know.
I'll tell you.
What's the root word of it?
Tamar. A date palm. Timros Ashan.
Oh, like a mushroom cloud.
Cloud.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy? And that's talking about before the temple. That's talking about, that's from Joel chapter 3. That's from Yoel chapter 3. And it says in the future by Gog and Magog, there's going to be blood, fire, and these
mushroom
clouds of smoke. Timros Ashana Tamar.
Wow.
So all of this, and by the way, if you go into Joel chapter 3 further, he talks about the Arba. He talks about that there's going to be, by Gog and Magog, locust swarms with red eyes shooting fire.
What's that?
Swarms of locusts shoot with red eye. This is how he
What is
described
that?
it.
So what is that?
Drones.
Oh, interesting.
Like what he put to a second century prophet who's
Yeah, yeah,
seeing
yeah, yeah.
drones spitting fire. They look like
So here's so
locusts. They
so
look
here's
like
my
locusts.
so here's my question that I. And by the way, so I've always been very skeptical. I don't know why, but I've always been very skeptical about. I've always been very skeptical about people that claim that like we're at the end of time, end of days. You know, like it's all coming to culmination because we've been saying that because Jews have been saying that in particular for thousands of years, right? Like we're always waiting for something to happen. Like are we forcing this interpretation, or are we like
I
how do we
think it
know
makes
that?
sense once the technology, once that's what the
Yeah, that's what I
Rambam
feel
always
like.
says. Once it comes, we can't understand what it means until it actually starts to happen, and then you look back and you're like, oh my God, that's what's happened.
So here's what I've been getting at. And then I want to keep on going. I want to get back ultimately to psychedelics and the fun stuff, right? But we're already
I
down
think
here.
psychedelics are part of Mashiach coming.
I think so too. But I think so. Here's what I've been listening like what I've been thinking about as computing is getting greater and greater. We're getting more. What's the main word that you hear today, especially
AI.
out of concerned parents, is instant gratification, right? The notion that we get things without having to appreciate what it is that we're getting, right? Gan Eden, right, or Garden of Eden, where Adam and Eve started, was a world without any processes. And the Medrash says that, like, the way that Adam and Chava had Cain and Hevel,
Coming
Cain and
full
Abel,
circle.
2 people got into bed, 4 people got off. There was no process of birth. There was no process of pregnancy. It was just 2 people got off the bed on the bed. 4 people got off the bed. We're living in a world that's more and more and more that you don't have to do the work in order to be able to get the value of it. But the question becomes, what is the purpose of that? What is the
It's preparing
meaning?
us for the Messianic age. Like
But
in the Messianic age, it says that we're not going to have to work. Everything will be done for us
right,
with AI and robotics.
and free, and
We're literally not going
we're
to have
going to
to
be the
do
richest,
anything,
right? So then,
and we'll have everything provided for
so then,
us
so then, the question has to become, what's the point of anything?
because we're going to learn. We're going to have a God consciousness,
Ah,
which is the
right.
purpose
Which
of
is
all of reality.
which is evolution of our awareness,
Right,
evolution of our traits.
right.
And what I've been thinking about,
And everyone is becoming more godly. There's a Christian revival revolution going on right now since COVID.
you think so?
I know so. I follow this stuff.
Because I do notice that people are more. I think that there was like a
In
five,
the
10 year period
90s,
where people were afraid to say say the word God.
right? Oh no, in the
God was the
90s,
G word.
atheism, 80s and 90s, atheism was all the rage,
Yeah.
and New Age bullshit stuff.
Postmodernism is what we
Was
called
right.
it.
Nowadays, old school God is coming back into play. People are looking for God. They're
Because
realizing
we
the
realize
utter
that we need meaning.
emptiness,
We
right?
need the
The
why.
utter
We need
emptiness
the
of
why.
life.
The how is not enough.
Exactly.
The how is not enough.
Exactly.
Right. Right. So I think that, so my theory, what I've been thinking about, it's not even a theory, it's not even fleshed out completely, is that when we have this world of,
But on what you were saying is, I think we're coming full circle. We're coming back to the Garden of Eden.
I think we are, that's right.
Like, look at all the curses, right?
But
Chava was going to have pain in childbirth. We have epidurals, right? Adam was going to have to work the land by the sweat of his brow. We have like farming machinery,
factories, yeah.
factories.
Yeah.
We were going to like all the curses that were given are becoming undone. Women were going to be second class to men,
Yeah.
right? Chava, you're going to
Undone.
learn feminism. We're up to like fourth wave feminism today,
Yeah.
which I think it's like with every new movement, it goes extreme. It like
But
peppers
isn't it,
itself out and like it finally finds itself at the
yeah.
right Tiferes, which is what I was saying at the beginning. You have Chesed, you have Gevura,
Right, you have
and then
kindness and you have
Tiferes
that
is the perfect
powerful restraint.
balance of the two. Meaning you have to know when to give kindness and when to restrain
So I don't
kindness.
know that we're going to get that balance so soon. I think that
I
what
think
we're
AI,
exceptionally bad at is balance.
but AI, I honestly think AI is at some point it's going to be so generative that it's going to prove the existence of God. It's going to say, we're going to ask Grok 7.0.
Yeah, but you know what?
What is the meaning? Because it's
I don't
programmed.
even
It's programmed by atheists.
no, well, first of all, yes.
But that's what
And
I'm
that's the
saying.
other problem, right? So here's think about this. If the point of humanity and the point of, let's say, religion as a whole, right, is to elevate consciousness. We have primal we have primal, evolutionary, primitive, reflexive, animalistic DNA, and what we try to do is try to get beyond that, right? Again, you can even say that whole kindness conversation we had earlier, right, where you treat a stranger like kin, is already beyond that, right? You're going beyond billions of years of evolution by treating someone that you've never seen before with a smile and how you doing. That would never happen because you get killed, right? I mean, and that's just what the answer is, right? And so I think that I think that everyone always says that like the days of Mashiach that are going to come, the days of the quote unquote ultimate redemption are going to come. Everything can be very painful and very beautiful. They might be painful because when we're doing these things like AI, we're developing them without coming from the place of that elevated sense of consciousness. We're coming from a place of censorship. We're coming from a place of trying to control a narrative, and power is the ultimate goal. And whereas the opposite should be true, it should be democratized information where everyone has access to information, and it should be that everyone has X amount. By the way, and the biggest problem that exists today is that there's so much information, it's so hard to even determine what's real or not. It's so there's studies backing up everything. Fluoride kills you, makes you dumber, and is the best thing in the entire world. And there's no middle ground. And vaccines are the best thing and the worst thing, and there's no middle. And you'll never meet anyone that's like, I don't know about vaccines. Like if someone says I don't know, it probably means they're against it, or it means that they think that they're speaking to someone that's against it, and they don't want to say that they're
I
pro
know about vaccines, and they're the worst thing in the world.
Right. You want to talk about that? We can talk about that. Let me actually just pause because I have to go to the bathroom. Let's pause here for a second, and then we'll pick up. 2, 1. We're back. We got fresh ice for our tequila. You're gonna yeah, thank you. Perfect. Chaim.
I'm
Did I had a kid?
Huh?
Between Sunday and now?
What?
Yeah.
Mazel
Thank you very much. Thank you. I had a baby girl, Ariella.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you.
Yeah, thank God. It was.
So you had her right here?
Yeah, right here at Memorial.
Did you just walk there?
We walked there. It was amazing to be here. My mom flew in.
Wait, so where is she now? She's
inside.
Your mom's here
in
too?
bed. Oh, my mom actually flew home tonight. She was here. My wife gave birth on Monday night.
It's amazing.
Yeah, yeah, it was crazy,
Did you
dude.
name her yet?
Yeah, Ariella.
Oh, Ariella.
Ariella Tamima. Actually, funny. We could wrap up this segment of the conversation with this. I really feel very strongly that names have influence over a personality, and there are also personalities that fit into names, right? And so my wife and I had a bunch of names that we thought about, but we weren't sure about until we actually saw the baby. And we looked at her, and she didn't look like any of the names that we had planned out. And I did not want the name Ariella originally. And I was like, but this girl just looks like an Ariella. And like she looked a little almost like tougher. And I wanted to give her a name that also would kind of round her out a little bit. And so Tamim or Tamim is the word means wholesome. It means rounded. And I wanted specifically I don't want to deny her nature, but I want her to, to be also well-rounded.
So funny.
My
wife is so into that.
Is she?
Or the names.
Yeah, there's a whole. Do you ever? Your wife has that book? There's a book. It's in all Hebrew, and it goes into the personality traits and characteristics of each name. It's incredible. I'll send you. I'll get you the link for that.
I was saying, we named one of our daughters after her great aunt.
Yeah.
But her great aunt, she was a Holocaust survivor, and she was a little bit miserable person.
Yeah.
So and her name was Sarah.
Yeah.
So she was I kind of want to
round it out.
Her, and so she named her Sarah Aliza, which is joy.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And
yeah.
It's really, and I'm telling you, this name, it's perfect for this daughter. She's 13 years old now.
Yeah.
And it's she's just she has this serious nature, but it's almost like a deadpan humor.
Yeah, sure.
It's just like it's perfect. It's like
By the way, there's such a beauty in that because like that's what makes a lot of comedians great is like their ability to have humor about something,
but like
but
serious.
yeah, but have that serious observational power and have that realism. It's a real skill.
Wait, your first kid is a boy?
My first son's a boy. He's 2, and then my daughter who's 4 days old.
That's awesome.
And the whole house feels different. The whole house feels like there's like just more warmth and life in it, and it's just like. And maybe this is like romantic. Like you're coming back, and like it's new, and like soon it's gonna be chaotic and a nightmare, and maybe it will be, But that's it, That's what you sign up for.
Did you vaccinate her?
We did not yet.
Don't do it, man.
We didn't do it.
Should we talk about that for a couple minutes?
Let's talk about it.
I think it's really important.
Let's talk about it. Let's dive into it. Tell me. So what have you?
Let
what
me
have
tell
you
about
researched?
background wise, it's not even about research. All my kids are vaccinated fully.
Okay.
In 2017, I told you this before, didn't I? About Ibogaine.
Yes, let's talk about. So where do you want to start from? Vaccines or Ibogaine?
I mean, one leads into the other.
So
I got involved in a biotech company to bring Iboga to FDA approval.
Okay.
Before I'm a Yeshiva guy.
So before then, let's get this a little bit in order, but also covering all the topics. So right now, you are so. Let's start with addiction. Let's start with opioids.
So after Brooklyn, I basically tried to live my life that I missed out from 14 to 22.
Okay.
In like
6 months.
No, in like a 4-year span.
Okay, fine. That's pretty good.
I'm just saying, like I was everywhere, did everything.
Where were you living?
Everywhere.
You were single.
I was single.
Okay, and what were you doing for work at the time?
I had a couple of real estate stuff. I was selling insurance for a little bit, just odds and ends. Like I didn't need to make a lot of money.
And where were you living?
I was in Maryland. I was in Jackson, New Jersey. I was in Brooklyn for a little bit, in the city for a little bit.
Which part of the city?
Upper West Side.
Nice. Where?
West End Avenue.
And
82nd.
82nd, sure. That's what's the building called?
Ours was the Mansfield.
Oh, it's next door. There's another big Jewish building that's.
It wasn't a Jewish building.
No, there's a big Jewish building that's right next door to it. That's very, very popular.
There was like a lot of single stuff.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole Upper West Side.
Right. I don't know. But like I was for 6 months, maybe I was there.
Yeah. I hated it, by the way.
I wasn't like going out socially, especially not in the Jewish community. Like I was going to like Pig and Whistle on 33rd and Lexington.
Cool. Yeah, I'm familiar with that place, by the way.
Yeah, Scottish Girls, like whatever. Like
What were you doing at the time? What were you like? What were you in terms of your life? What were you?
I was literally just on cruise control.
You were just enjoying yourself.
I was just like.
What were your passions at the time? What did you enjoy? What did you love? Were you looking for music? Were you looking for people? Were you looking for thrills?
I played music.
Oh yeah, you're a musician.
I played guitar. I was playing guitar all the time at the Red Lion in the Village. You ever been to the Red Lion?
No.
Cottage? I used to play guitar there all the time.
What'd you play? Just like covers or your own songs?
Yeah, both. Mostly covers, my own songs. Sometimes I would take songs and put my own words to it.
We should jam together sometime.
We should.
Because I've never played with another musician before.
I mean, I'm not like trained.
I'm not either.
I taught myself and I just jammed and I found good people to do it with. I smoked a lot of weed. And then I got into like a little bit of the underground drug culture. Nothing crazy. Like I remember I did cocaine once, hated it.
Really?
Ugh, I was like, how?
What was it like? Can you describe it?
So I was in Vegas.
I've never been tempted even by it.
Well, I never was either, but I'm in Vegas one night. So I used to love rap. I used to love like Nas and Tupac and Biggie and NWA and Wu-Tang. Like,
wow.
I loved them. Like I knew Mamish, like their songs word for word. And then Eminem came on the scene.
And that was an explosion,
that was
right?
Like white dude, like, and he was so fast, and his rhymes were like double, triple rhyming cadence schemes, like.
While he was putting out songs, everyone was getting blown away every time.
Crazy, yeah, crazy. He revolutionized rhyming schemes. Like people like nowadays, now it's normal, but like.
She was the father of it.
Yeah, I mean, he used to like rhyme like, he would say a murder a rhyme, right? One word at a time. So he's rhyming murder.
Yeah.
Murder, rhyme, word, time, You never
Yeah.
heard of a mind as perverted as mine. You would
Yeah.
get rid of that nine. And
Dylan did a
even,
lot of that. Springsteen did a lot of
but
that.
I don't know, doing it in such a rapid fashion. And
Yeah.
like, it was such a good, and his beats by Dr. Dre were so good. Anyway, so I'm at the House of Blues. I was with my cousins. We used to party like crazy. I was never a gambler, but they loved to gamble. So they got comped in Vegas at the Mandalay Bay, but it was Mandalay Bay, the hotel
Okay.
building.
When was this? In the 90s?
No, this is 2004, 5,
Okay.
2004. Um, we got comped Michael Douglas suite at the Mandalay Bay, the hotel, meaning he was a great, like, I used to see him drop. He used to lose 20, 30 grand in a
Michael
night.
Douglas?
No, my cousin.
Oh, okay.
Like he was, so
That's
it
crazy.
was called the Michael Douglas suite because that was his suite that he always would go to.
Gotcha, gotcha,
Crazy. It
gotcha.
was like almost a full floor on like not the penthouse, but like five
How would he
down.
do? Is he a good gambler or is he, or
I they're always liars. Gamblers are liars. So like you can never.
you can
Like
never tell?
he always used to give me all the guys he used to go with. I was the guy who held their ATM and debit cards at the beginning of the night. They
Oh, interesting. So that
because
they
I
would,
didn't gamble,
yeah.
and they knew they were like, "Don't give it to us. We're gonna be coming to you at 3 o'clock in the morning, asking you when you take out money, and don't give it to us. We're gonna ruin
Did you
your
give it to them or
lives."
no?
No, no, no.
Good for you, yeah?
Fist
Really?
fights, black eyes. They were
Really?
drunk 3 o'clock in the morning. It's my fucking money. Give it to me. Be like, dude, you told me not to give it to you. I'm not giving it to you.
How far?
Pushing me up against the
Good
wall.
for
And these are my
you.
friends. These are some of them are my cousins.
Yeah, yeah.
But it
Good
was
for
such a
you.
degeneracy, by the way. It's so, and I'm looking up now. I always see this freaking
The Hard Rock Light.
Hard Rock.
By the
Like,
way,
it destroys so many people's lives. I don't know if you gamble at all,
really?
but like
Oh, I don't gamble.
gambling destroys lives worse than anything else, I
And
think.
I don't gamble because I'm scared.
Me too.
I took my wife to Vegas a year and a half, almost 2 years ago. My grandmother lives there part time, and she has a lot of connections over there. And she hooked us up with a room in the Aria next door to the Venetian, and I show my wife how to play craps. Right, first thing she does, she wins $100. And I'm like, we are golden girlfriend. This is great, and we don't play again for 2 days. We're like, and we took that $100. We spent we spent it on tickets to a concert. Chainsmokers were playing in. It had a residency in the hotel,
Yeah.
so we spent 100. We spent the $100 there, and I'm like, okay, love. Now that we're up, like we're up. Like you're up. You win. The house money is yours. You're the conqueror. You're staying in this beautiful hotel for nothing, and they just gave you $100 and a couple of free tequilas. And I was like, and for 2 days I held myself out. For a day and a half I held myself out from not going back. And then before we left, I was like, come on, I love it.
You know how to play craps?
Yeah, I played a couple of times.
Okay. I don't even know how to play though.
It's a fun game. I'm an extremely conservative guy in terms of the sense that I'm extremely risk averse, and I don't like to like I value my money, and I look at it like a direct exchange for something that I could be
Right.
getting.
Right.
So like $100 in my bank account equals 5 great beers that I like at a brewery, and like and the Uber back and forth, and like I'm very happy for $100 to be worth that experience. $100 at a craps table where it's gone in 3 minutes, and I walk away and I'm like, where'd that go? It's not a good feeling. And it happens more often than not. So I'm not.
Which, by the way, I think I was saved. The reason I'm not a gambler is I was 18 years old, and we had an off Shabbos from Philly,
Yeah.
right? And I couldn't go to Savannah. It was like too expensive or whatever. And I went to one of my friend's house who lived in Elkins Park, like northeast Philadelphia.
Okay.
And he was like, yo, Saturday night, we're driving down to AC, to Atlantic City.
Yeah.
Right? It was like 45-minute drive
Yeah.
from Philly. And I was like, okay. I went with him. And I think, was it roulette? No, it was blackjack. And he explained to me how to play blackjack, trying to get 21 and whatever. He was like, I'll sit next to you. And I remember I had like saved up throughout the yeshiva years. Like I had like $500, $550, like
Yeah.
that was like my savings.
Yeah.
And I brought it. I was like, okay, we'll try. And he kept telling me like double, like I lost, and I was like double down. I lost all my money in like 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah. And you never want to do it again.
I just remember being like, this is the worst thing in the world.
Yeah.
Like this is so awful. Like years and years of me saving $50 here, $20 here, $50 here. It's gone. It's gone. In
I,
like
I
10
read
minutes.
I read an article that I don't know that I necessarily 100% agree with, that said that a lot of times gamblers have an addiction to punishing themselves,
Really?
and that actually losing is like part of what
It's
it
like
is.
being a
You
cutter.
feel like you deserve it. Like you feel
It's like those people who cut
like
themselves.
you're a freaking loser. You're an animal. You're an idiot. And almost like we have and I don't know if I buy it necessarily. I don't know if I necessarily 100%, but I do believe that there are people that put themselves in like
For sure,
challenging
pain and
situations
pleasure
because
come from the same part of the frontal lobe. That's why cutters, peak girls who like cut
yeah,
themselves,
yeah,
they
yeah,
feel.
yeah,
It's like they get pleasure out of the pain.
yeah.
Yeah, pain and pleasure are the same spot in your frontal lobe. It's interesting.
So
Anyway, I
yeah.
was in the I was in I was in the Mandalay Bay.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
With my
So you're having a great time. So
This
you're
is like
having a great time for these
I have
4 years.
crazy ADDs.
No,
Like,
no.
I
By the way,
know what we were talking
this
about.
is what all my podcasts are like.
Okay, fine.
It's great.
I'm in the Mandalay Bay, the hotel. My cousin, we got comped to have, where like they rope off the front, and it was the House of Blues,
Okay.
which is in the lobby there, and the roped off table service, and they had Redman and Method Man from Wu-Tang Clan were putting on a concert.
I know what that means.
The Wu-Tang Clan was a rap group in the
Okay.
90s.
Okay, gotcha.
And it was like 7 black dudes.
Okay.
And 2 of the main guys one guy's name was Method Man and one was Redman.
Okay.
They're still rappers today.
Okay.
So they were by themselves putting on a show. And we were sitting right up front, and it was like an empty house. And I remember after, it was like in between sets, we were drunk as can be, and my cousin was like, Shlomy, you should go up there and rap. You're better than them, right?
Okay.
And he said that
Do you know how to
really
rap?
loud. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
He said that really loud. And are you a kitty? Or is it a raccoon?
That's a raccoon. That's a huge raccoon.
Okay.
You saw it just fell out of that tree?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's like, you should get up there and rap. You're better than these guys, right?
They heard him say
I
that.
heard him say that. And they're like, yo, white boy, you think you're better? He's like, get up here. So I knew a rap from 1996 that Wu-Tang Clan, their band, brought in this Jewish guy, and he sang a Holocaust rap.
Okay. And you knew that rap.
Yeah. It was like, Reuven ben Menachem, yo, my own blood, dragged through the mud in my house. All, it was like crazy. Like, I remember it back then.
Yeah.
And it was about the Holocaust. And I got up there and I was like, give me a beat, right? I was like, give me a beat. It's like, started the beat, and I did the whole thing. And both of them were like, yo, dude, this white boy could rap. This white boy could spit. It was something like that, right? Very impressed by it. Afterwards, they finished their set and they came. We were like only people in the VIP section, right? With like those red velvet ropes.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Like nobody
Yeah,
could
yeah.
come into our section. We had table service and free booze. And like, yo, where you guys? And my cousin, by the way, was like, he's like, he wasn't starstruck. He was just like, who the fuck are you?
Yeah.
Like he would be like that with anyone. If he met the Queen of England,
Yeah.
he's like, who the fuck are you? Like,
Yeah.
get out of here.
Yeah.
So he was like acting like that to them. And he
You
was like,
did it, yeah, I bet people like that, right?
those guys liked it.
Yeah.
They liked it. And they're like, yo, you guys got to come hang out with us and our bitches later, right? In our room, we're staying here.
Okay.
And my cousin's like, no, you need to come to our room.
He said
He said it to Method Man and Redman, right?
Okay.
And they're like, what you mean, your room? He's like, we're in the Michael Douglas suite. He's like, for real? So he's like, okay, we'll meet you there. We had a nicer room than them, right? Anyway, they're like, okay, we'll be there in an hour. And we go upstairs. We're like pouring drinks or whatever. An hour later, we get a knock on the door. It's like 8. I mean, 8. They must have been hookers. Okay?
Yeah.
I mean, these
Yeah.
black hookers, like hoochie, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
wearing nothing. They come in, and Method Man and Redman come in after them. And one of them was carrying this glass square mirror, like a mirror,
Yeah.
with this like little mountain of white powder. Right?
No way.
And they come in, and Method Man's like, aight. He's like, yeah. This is good. This is a good crib. This is a good crib, man. Yo, shit, look at that view. It was like because we had the whole floor, you know.
Yeah.
So they put it on the bar, and at that time, like I smoked weed a little bit, a lot, whatever. I took Adderall a few times. We took a Percocet
Adderall's
here
not
and
too
there.
different
I
compositionally from
know, right?
coke, right?
That's what my cousin convinced me. So,
Yeah,
so method. They all like. So the girls like cut up,
yeah,
lines, and then method was like, "Yo, bro, whatever." I don't want to say my cousin's name.
yeah.
He's like, "Yo, B,
Yeah.
come here." He's like, "Take a hit." And my cousin did it. He's like, "Oh," he's like this, and Method Man was like, "This is the best Colombian shit you will ever find in your life." And my cousin was like, "This is amazing." He's like, "This," he's like, "I've never." This is so like. And then
Pure,
like
right.
another guy who was with us did it, and then Method Man did it, and one of the girls did it, and then Red Man did it, and they're like, yo, rapping white boy, come on, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, it's
Yeah.
like I'm not, it's cocaine, like I'm not, what is it?
Yeah.
So he's like,
Oh
just
man,
take a
I'm so
little
tense
bump,
just
man.
thinking about it. I'm so tense
Great,
just
that's
thinking
great.
about it.
He's like, yo, just take, man. Okay, he's like
What
Shannon.
does it take to say no to him?
It was like I could have said no, but he convinced me. He's like, just take a teeny bump. He like cut the line in half, right?
Yeah.
And I remember going, he gave me like the straw thing, and I went like that, and I had such a crazy
Rush.
reaction like to sneeze. I sneezed and coughed. It was like that the entire mountain
No!
it flew everywhere.
What did they say?
He was like, "What?" He was going crazy. It must, I don't know, $10,000 worth. I
Yeah,
don't know
yeah.
what that was. Anyway, he had all his girls like with spoons in the carpeting,
Trying to scoop it
trying to
up.
scoop it all up.
Oh
And I just
my.
remember like it was just like it was so like I just felt like it went right up to my eyes and my brain, and like it was like stuck in my nose, and I was like
I've heard that it's
I
something.
felt jittery, like my clenching, my jaw was clenching. I was like, what? Who likes this? What is this? Like, I
It's so
never.
interesting that you say that because I have a friend that said that he did it once, and he's like, I did it once. And he goes, I haven't done it again. He goes, but I've always wanted to again since that first time I did it. He's like, it's such a dopamine rush, and it's such a hit, and it's so great. He's like, I did it once. And he goes, I never did it again. And he goes, but he goes, when you're an addict, he goes, like, there's always like a little voice in the back of your head that's like, come on, like, just go for it. Just try that one more time. Come on, man. Like, just take a couple of puffs. You're fine. No
To
problem.
me,
Just do this,
it was
do that.
awful. It was awful. And then this is 3:30 in the morning,
Yeah.
and then I remember like an hour or so later, like you have such like okay, like I was like jittery and like like, grinding my teeth and like
Really?
whatever. And then an hour later, like you have such a crash. That's why you have to like keep bumping it,
Yeah.
like keep doing it. It's like my cousin was like, "Come on, we gotta take another bump. Gotta take another." I was like, "What?" It's like, no, man. And like I remember I couldn't sleep till like
Yeah.
2 o'clock the next afternoon. I was
I,
like, "Who? What kind of drug? Who likes this?"
so what do you think that people like about it?
I don't know. Maybe I did it wrong.
Right.
I don't know. I don't really know.
Okay.
I mean,
So
it's supposed to be like amphetamine, but it's supposed to be like it's like Adderall, but like all of the Adderall at once, instead of being like time released, maybe. Like I liked Adderall, like I liked amphetamines. Made me feel
I'm
like
afraid I'm not interested in them.
I'm not either, but like when
I've
I
always been more interested in like the psychedelic and like the unknown and like exploring like different parts of me and like I've always been more curious about trying to discover like uncharted territories more than like getting the fake confidence to be like like a BS kind of like
felt like you never took an Adderall before.
no, never taken Adderall.
So I mean, like I was able to get a crazy amount of stuff done.
I
Like
won't do it because I could get myself in that zone by myself.
I remember
I
asking my Rosh
work
Hashiva.
myself up.
I asked my Rosh Hashiva when after like all this is I went to Silver Spring to Rivera Lapiansky.
Oh, isn't he great?
Amazing. He's my Rebbe.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love
I've
him.
listened to a bunch of his stuff.
That's where I ended up instead of going to Lakewood
He's
after.
really excellent.
Amazing. He's the best. I'm telling you, he's so worldly in Talmud Chacham Torah. He knows everything, and he's such a straight thinker. Anyway, I took an Adderall once. There was a guy in Yeshiva. He gave me an Adderall. I learned for I think 36 hours straight. It was like something crazy. And I went to a bar and I asked him, I was like, if I go to a doctor and get a prescription for this drug,
I
like
could do this all the time.
I could finish shots in like 6 months.
Shots is all of the Talmud.
All
Yeah.
of Talmud in
Which is
6 months.
which
It just
generally
takes
takes
7
people,
years.
if you learn 1 page a day, it takes 7 years. And it's a struggle to do a page a day because
Right.
it's really thick. It's really
I was
really
like, I could do this in 6 months if I take Adderall. If I'm on amphetamines, and he told me his answer was so nice. He was like, Hashem doesn't want your fake energy. He wants whatever you have. Like the best thing he wants is when you wake up tired
Wait, but
and you're not interested in going to learning.
but
And
doesn't
you
it go back to
still
what
go
we're
and
saying
learn.
about like computing and stuff like that? Like that goes back to what we were talking about earlier with like, Garden of Eden, like no processes. There's value in going through the process.
But first,
There's value in the choice of, hey, I can do something that is not authentically me to. And by the way, there's a really good argument for that. I'm not even saying that you shouldn't do it. I'm just saying we should think about it. I'm saying that you should think like, if I could snap to. Remember the movie Click with Adam Sandler?
I don't think I ever saw it.
You never
Did
saw
you
it?
ever saw Limitless?
Limitless, I remember. Limitless.
Like to me, Adderall was like limitless. It was like a drug that makes you a genius. But by the way, the problem is that all that learning, I retained zero of it
Really?
because you're drugged up.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you have all this energy and fake, but like you're not using your real brain cells.
I'm
You're
hosting.
using.
I'm hosting a debate soon between two med school students that are going to be, I don't know about debate, but they're going to be talking. One student thinks that the system's completely screwed up and has to be completely reformed. Another one is,
I agree with him.
and the other one says, you need top tier doctors to be functioning 100% when they're at 40% energy. And so part of what part of the rigor of the education system in med school is to make sure that you can operate at 100% and make those right decisions. When you're coming back from vacation at 3 o'clock in the morning and you have 2 hours of sleep and a mother calls you, she's giving birth, you have to be on your game.
Half of these MDs getting through school, they're all on amphetamines. They all have to take Adderall to get through it, to study all night. They retain zero knowledge. Zero. These doctors, they remember nothing. And by the way,
Are there studies that
yes,
examine
amphetamine use in medical school students?
Yeah.
Yes.
There
My
are?
cousin, I have a different cousin
Yeah.
from Teaneck,
Okay.
and two of them are doctors. They went to med school to
Mhm.
Albert Einstein, and
Yeah.
both of them got hooked on amphetamines, had to go to rehab to get off of it.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about amphetamines. Let's talk about the opioid.
Opioids are the worst. Amphetamines are like, I never got addicted to amphetamines. I just enjoyed them if I had them. It made me, like when I used to buy tax deeds in Atlanta.
Amphetamines and
I
opioids
could
are very
drive
similar,
from
though,
T
aren't they? Chemically, they're extremely similar to one
I
another.
mean, because they hit dopamine receptors and they increase serotonin, but like opioids, it hijacks your frontal lobe. Amphetamines hit a different area.
So
I'll show you
what's
a
the
whole
difference?
thing of where it goes.
Can you explain the difference, or try to? If not, then we could.
I don't know from a pharmacological perspective. I don't know if I'm
Okay, no problem.
an
Fine.
expert in it, but like as personal use,
Right. Yeah, sure.
like opiates are, it's pure bliss. It's pure.
It's just removal. It's removal from
It's just
reality.
like nothing matters, and
And
everything
opioids
is
are
beautiful.
typically speaking, are pain meds, Vicodin,
It
Percocets.
does. It takes care of pain. It for sure does. But it also
Right, but that's what people are referring to when you say opioids.
pain meds. Percocet, Vicodin, oxycodone, hydrocodone, morphine sulfate, Dilaudid.
Are the Sacklers a terrible family?
Terrible.
Horrible, right?
They lied to the FDA. They
And
said it could be used for anything.
they killed
These
people. They killed everyone.
Oxycontin should have been used for cancer patients at the end of life.
That's it.
And they put a little film around the pill and said they couldn't be abused. The film, if you took a paper towel and put it under some hot water and then rubbed the pill, the film came off.
What's in that?
It was like a film that was supposed to make it time released and not and like avoid abuse. But it made once you rub that film off, it was instant release, and you
Which is
can
why people would
crush
crush it. Oh, that's why people would crush it.
Oh, when you crush something, it's instant release.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah. It doesn't have to go through your
So-
digestive system and break up. It's right to your brain.
So, what was your experience with it?
With opiates?
Yeah.
So I had a surgery. I used to
How
be
old are you?
a big golfer. I was 31.
Okay.
I was a big golfer. I tore my meniscus in two places, and I went to a surgeon, orthopedic surgeon. He's like, I can't see you for a couple of months. Here's a bucket. It wasn't like a pill case like this, right? Like the regular
Yeah.
pill cases. It was the bucket ones. You know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about?
Like the ones you got in Costco.
Right, like the big ones.
Okay.
And there were hundreds in there, like of 30 milligram
No way.
hydroxycodone.
Hey, you just wrote that for you.
Yeah, yeah. Like not a 10 milligram Percocet, not even a 5 milligram Percocet. The 30s that were the teeny little blue ones, it didn't even have Tylenol.
Blues,
They were blues.
and blues are. According, I read a book about this recently. I'll give you the book if you want. I'll show you the book after to fight between the DEA and the pharmaceutical companies about opioids. And Florida was a big spot for
Huge pill mills here.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I think one of those blues was equivalent to a hit of heroin.
Yeah.
According to that author.
Oh.
So people, he gave you a container of heroin pills.
Basically. And it was like take it as prescribed, which was every 4 to 6 hours, take one for pain, which I did. I literally like I
Yeah.
didn't abuse it.
You just did what the doctor told you to
Did
do.
it as the doctor told me. I I went for my surgery. I got it, and I had run out, and he gave me a few more, but it was a regular pill bottle.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. He's like, this is just for healing. Whatever. And after I ran out of the bottle, my whole body started shutting down. Like I had no idea. I was shitting myself. I couldn't hold in my bowels. I was shaking, sweating, freezing, hot.
What was that?
Couldn't
What was that
sleep.
experience like?
That's called withdrawal.
Yeah. What was that
It was
like?
awful. Hell. Like
Did you know you were going through withdrawal, or were
no,
you like,
not
"What's
at
wrong with
first.
me"?
Not at first. I had no idea what was going on.
What did you think was going on? If that happened to me, I would have thought I was dying.
I went to the doctor. I was like, I feel like I'm dying. And I told him my symptoms. He's like, oh,
You're an addict.
sows. He said, you're a drug addict. You need to go to rehab. I was like, what? I was like, this is, I was like, you gave me these pills. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
So I remember, by the way, that was when I lost all faith in doctors. Like, they don't know anything. They push pills and they're just trying to mask symptoms and they're not getting to the root of anything about health. They don't know anything about nutrition or any, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm just going to suffer. I was started Googling how to get through withdrawals, guys like grapefruit juice and what's it called? The Imodium, right?
Oh, yeah.
Diarrhea. He had all these different things to help for each symptom.
Were you taking them?
I tried it and it was alleviated a little bit. I didn't sleep for weeks. That was the worst part.
Yeah.
It was
Sleep.
and you're so tired, but you just can't sleep. I guess that's insomnia. I don't wish that on my worst nightmare.
Really?
And you're just up. And you're just you feel everything. You feel muscles in your body that you didn't even know you had.
Yeah.
Because everything was numb for the past 3 months. And I remember I suffered, and then I remember after a couple of weeks, I was over a hump.
Yeah.
And things I felt were starting to get better, And it was that reprieve that was oh my God, thank God, and it helped me get through. And then a couple months later, I remember, I don't know what happened, but I was just I really want a Percocet. I really want a blue,
Yeah.
Oh my God, today would be it would just be one.
Was there anything that set off that?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. And it was just
You just remember thinking that. You remember thinking
I
really
just started having a craving out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what? And I remember I started calling people, texting people, hey, do you have this? I remember a guy who got hit by a bus and he was prescribed to these and
wow.
He hooked me up with a couple. And I went to a movie with him and I was drug seeking.
Yeah.
And I was what? And then I was what am I doing? And then all of a sudden, I remember taking a few of them and all of a sudden, the withdrawal was coming back. And I was what did I just do to myself? And why did I do this?
Yeah.
And so I started researching more, and a friend of mine was who had gone through this. He was you got to get on methadone or Suboxone.
What is that?
It's an opioid agonist. It's buprenorphine or Subutex or whatever. It's methadone. It's basically when you do opiates, you grow opiate receptors in your brain.
Okay.
That were never there.
They're looking to
be filled in.
Right.
So this methadone and Suboxone, it basically fills in. They're opioids, but you don't get the high. So it
fills those, but without
so you don't go through withdrawal, but you're not getting high. But it's 10 times stronger than regular opiates
in terms of the chemical makeup.
Right.
Okay.
So I quickly found out that like it's more impossible to get off of Suboxone or methadone than it is to get off of heroin. Like it's easier to get off of
Wow.
heroin than Suboxone.
Really? So
Like the
this guy gave you the
withdrawal.
wrong advice.
Well, no,
He didn't
all drug addicts today, this is the medically assisted treatment. This is what all of them are on Suboxone. Like they're
really.
screwed, and or methadone. They're screwed. That's why the answer is is Ibogaine. It's the only thing that's going to help you. All these people are still on opiates. They're all still opiate addicts. They're just not getting high, and they're on
They're just
maintenance. It's
completely
maintenance
depending
program.
on
Yeah,
it.
totally dependent.
They call that
When
a
Hurricane
treadmill.
Harvey hit Houston, one of the biggest stories was the methadone clinics that were shut down because of Hurricane Harvey. Remember that hurricane? It was like
No.
over Houston, Texas.
When
It
was that?
lasted
Recently?
weeks. No, it was like 7, 8 years ago.
Okay. I don't
It
remember.
lasted weeks. They had no power, flooding. The drug addicts all ended up going back onto heroin because the methadone clinics were closed. And
Wow.
they were
They
all
all
going through
relapsed.
crazy withdrawal.
Because it's not even relapse. It's they
Right.
continue. They never
Still,
broke. They never broke that
exactly,
addiction.
exactly. So I got back on pills to get off of Suboxone, and it was just like I'm in this like crazy loop of
And at this point,
addiction.
you have responsibilities.
Yeah, my wife is like, what the fuck? What are you doing? Why
Would
do you
you? So
keep
what do you do as?
I told her, I said,
I feel. I'm sorry. I don't want to cut. I don't mean
no,
to
no,
cut
go
you
ahead.
off. I feel an enormous amount of pressure on a day-to-day basis when I have a family to just be there. Like forget about fighting something like an opioid. Like like it's so because it's chemical. It's your body's dependent on it, right? I don't know how I don't know how I'd be able to like.
I
I
mean,
don't know
I was a
what
great
was your headspace
I
like?
was a great father when I had my pills.
What was your headspace like?
It was only I was becoming hard to deal with when I didn't have the pills.
But when you had it, you were fine.
I was great. I actually I think was a better father. Like I felt like I had so much energy and I was so happy and I was like, let's go do stuff. Let's go fishing.
Wow,
Let's go
really?
boating. Let's go.
So you're almost like conflicted because you're like, oh, I feel like I'm a good dad with
Right.
this, and like,
But it wasn't even like I was, no, but I understood. And my wife trusted me. She's like, I know you're smart. I know you're going to figure this out. She knew the whole story. I was like, the doctors got me onto this where I'm going to go to doctors and I'm not getting, don't lock me up in a drug rehab for 8 months. Like I have my own locked up issues from Yeshiva,
yeah,
like
yeah.
I'm not going somewhere without, and, and I finally discovered that like Ibogaine, that there's this psychedelic drug
Who
that you could
introduced you
do.
to it?
Some drug addicts, some heroin addicts. They're
Really?
like, if you're rich and you want to get off of heroin, you go to Mexico or Costa Rica and you do Iboga.
Wow, that's what they said. They know that it's common knowledge.
Yeah, yeah. But they're like, we can't afford it. So you got to do
Wow.
Medicaid drug rehabs here. That's just a scam. It's just a revolving door. We go there for 3 months, we leave, we relapse, we come back 2 months later. It's like, this is our life.
Yeah.
Um, I was like, really? And I heard this from like 2 people, 3 people, then 4 people. I was like, what? I started researching it. I'm like watching these documentaries.
Have you ever thought about psychedelics before that?
Never.
You never were interested in them. You never thought anything about them.
I was always scared of them because like my whole thing is my brain,
Yeah.
is like my mind and my cognitive ability. And I was always like, I don't know, like LSD, like you go crazy and it's like you'll go out of your mind and never come back and
Yeah, because you
you're
go to a
just gonna
better
be in a
place.
jungle playing a banjo, And I was
Yeah.
like, but so I was like, I was very scared about doing it.
Okay.
I found a doctor who had done research on it. He recommended a place. He introduced me to DemeRx, who's the head of neurobiology at University of Miami.
Oh,
Recommended the
right.
same place.
I want to get in touch with her. I want to talk to her too.
Okay.
Yeah.
She
Uh,
does podcasts all the time.
yeah, I would love to talk to
Look
her.
her up.
Yeah.
Um,
Deborah Nash.
MASH with an
M.
M.
Yeah.
So I went to Mexico. I did Ibogaine. It was such a crazy, crazy experience. I guess, first of all, I think bad trips
Wait. So
happen.
you go to Mexico, you land in Mexico, and you meet the group there at the airport. Or you go to take a cab to the. What do you do?
They had a shuttle pick me up, a
Okay.
Mexican dude,
And who are you with?
myself.
How big is the group that you're tripping
I
with?
didn't go with a group.
You went by
I went
yourself
by
the trip.
myself, but
Okay.
there was like whenever someone comes from the airport, they'll pick you up.
Okay.
I was by myself. I was there with a fashion designer from LA,
Yeah.
with a Kennedy girl,
Okay.
like wealthy heroin addicts
Yeah.
with Andrew Mellon from Mellon Bank in New York.
Okay.
You know Mellon Bank?
No.
You ever heard of Mellon?
No.
Chase, I think it was used to be Chase Mellon.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like Mellon's like big
Okay.
banking family,
Okay.
like very wealthy people who were trying to get off heroin. They were all there. Um, and I think I had a very bad trip because like I was so scared. And it's like doing a psychedelic, you have to be in a safe, and I'm like in
Setting.
Mexico. I don't know where I am. I'm in a Mexican clinic, like, am I going to do this IV?
What were the people like? Were they kind? Were
They
they?
seemed nice. I mean, everyone was just Mexican,
How was their English?
The head doctor, he had okay English. Then there was a night doctor.
So when you're doing this,
There was a doctor, like two nurses, and like house staff, a chef, and
yeah.
I was getting my food sent in from Chabad of Cancun.
Mm-hmm. I heard they're great.
Yeah, cleaning people. There was a masseuse that I didn't want her to touch me. I was like bugging out.
Yeah.
And I was always scared. I was like, am I going to take this psychedelic and I'm going to wake up and like my kidneys are going to be gone?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm in Mexico.
So what was it like? So you took it. What is it? It's a liquid?
It's a pill. It was
It's
like
a pill.
it's a powder. Like it's hydrochloride. So they take the iboga root and they basically make it hydrochloride, which putting in hydrochloric acid until it breaks down to its fundamental core.
Yeah.
And it'll take a huge thing of iboga bark, and you can literally fit it into like a pill with a white powder.
Yeah.
Took that, and then they put music on you in a blindfold.
What kind of music were you listening to?
It was like Amazonian weird music. Like it was bugging me out.
Would you have rather chosen the music yourself?
Yeah, yeah.
What would you have listened to?
I don't know.
When I took LSD, I listened to I listened to Van Morrison's Astral Weeks. You know that album?
I don't know, but I know Van Morrison.
Incredible album. I love Van Morrison.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to listen to a Grateful Dead concert because I know that the Grateful Dead concert formula, like the structure of the concert, matches a psychedelic trip. In the sense that at the beginning it's all light and easy and breezy, and then it gets a little heavier, and then it gets a little darker, and then like it kind of goes into like this like mystical realm for like where they call it space, or they play a song called Dark Star, or the other one, and like it's intentionally just like the farthest out that you could get, and they're like, we didn't even know where the music goes, and we just like we get lost, and then like we kind of just somewhere out there we just kind of find each other again, and then we just kind of pull each other back into reality again. It's like, but that's like that they call that like the ego loss phase of a psychedelic trip. That people say that when you go through a trip, like there's a dark side of that trip where like you lose your sense of like ego and sense of self, and like you almost die and become one with everything, and that oneness allows you to kind of that allows you the new perspective that emerges from it. And then they always end the concert with songs like "Singing Back Home" or like back where you're turning back to yourself after you've been lost and rediscovered again.
I have to re-listen to Grateful Dead.
Oh yeah, I'll send you some great concerts if you want.
Their playlist actually did that. Like it started off like light, Amazonian beats and whatever, and like rain and stuff, and then it started getting darker, and it was like there was a certain point where it was like, it was like these like voices and like.
And what were you experiencing?
I was terrified. I was.
What were you seeing? What were you experiencing? What were you visualizing? What were you feeling? What were you doing?
It took like 35 minutes or so to kick in, and you start hearing. Your senses get so crazy heightened.
Yeah.
It's like you hear everything. Like I was hearing the machines, like the beeps. I was hearing air conditioning unit turning on, like meaning things that like you wouldn't ordinarily hear. It was very quiet. Like it was like a at some point I thought I heard the universe expanding, like the sound of it. Like it was like a you start like get shot out into space. I remember like you're shot out of your body. And then
what do you mean you shot out of your body?
It's just like you close your eyes and like it just feels like you're flying,
Yeah.
Like, I can't. That's
the
only way I can describe it. Yeah. It's like, but by the way, with Iboga, if you open your eyes, you're back in reality.
Yeah.
You're back. Like I don't think it's like.
So you're supposed to keep your eyes closed.
You're right. That's why they put a mask on. But like I started to get scared and things. Like, are they gonna? Like, there's someone touched me, and I was like, "Are you cutting my kidneys out?"
Yeah.
And I like lifted up my mask, and it was just like a nurse, like she's
checking on you,
putting a magnesium drip so I didn't dehydrate.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, I met an entity, and I think it was a malach. Like he called me by my full Hebrew name, as weird as can be, and he's like, "What are you doing here?"
That's what he asked you? And what'd you
Yeah,
say?
I said, "I'm here for refuah. I'm here to for healing." And he said, "What's the problem?" You know, and like, and then he just like he showed me like it was just like so clear, like everything in my life and my history, my grandparents, my parents. It's like through my DNA, showing everything that built me up to who I am today,
Yeah.
and to have
Perspective.
gratitude and yeah, and like how everyone tried their best and it's everything will be fine and all I have to do is have the resilience and the willpower to go down this road of light. And this road was like it was paved with like skulls and bones, like the ground was, and it just ended like you couldn't like it just ended in blackness, you know? And the other one looked like it was just like went on forever until light. And it was like a clear choice. And it was like, these are your choices. It's like that was the trip. But like from a neurobiological perspective, what Deborah Mash is looking at is that it like it coats over all the grown opiate receptors. It destroys them. It
Really?
resets your brain circuitry.
Get out.
Yeah. So it's like after doing that, I won't even take an Advil. Like I know I smoke cigarettes, but like this, like, but I want a pharmaceutical drug, and that's why, like, I always tell myself, like, you got to kick this. But like a
Do you think you need
pharmaceutical,
another? You think you know the trip to cook it?
I want to do psilocybin. They say is really good for this to stop smoking.
Well, if you want,
Johns
if
Hopkins
you
is
want
doing it right
company,
now.
if you want company, yeah,
I have a lot of psilocybin. I just
yeah.
don't know. Yeah,
If you want company, I've been thinking I want to do a trip now that I'm a dad of two, and I think a lot of my life has been changing, and I think I want to be able to. I want to explore below the surface of what I feel about it.
okay. Let me know when and where.
Yeah,
Yeah,
gonna make it happen. I'm really excited. I really want to do it.
I really think it opens up. So to me, what it did was like there's a blockage between like my neshama and my physical mind, and this opened it up, and it was like you just had a it was just like it was like a blood clot, you know, between your neshama, and it removed the clot, and
Wow.
now things were free flowing, and I just felt like afterwards, I mean, at first I was tripping for probably 2 weeks later. Every time I
Really?
closed my eyes, I
Your receptors were still
no, just from the Iboga,
yeah,
like
yeah,
I
yeah.
was every time I closed my eyes for like at least a week later, I would be getting like flashes of stuff, you know? And even during the day, if my eyes were open, sometimes I would feel like these things were flying by. They
Yeah.
call
Yeah,
it like
yeah, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you know?
Yeah, I'm familiar. You get the sense that there's something in your peripheral vision that's
Right,
kind of like moving past you, and
right. It's
you're
not
like, look,
there.
and it's not there. Yeah,
Right. So like I
yeah.
was having that for a couple of weeks, but I remember like my wife told me like I came back and I was like a totally different person. But you don't,
Was
it
it
doesn't
scary to
change
her?
you, huh?
Was it scary to her? Was it?
Oh, totally. Because I don't even know how I made it back. Like they wanted me to stay there for 10 days. Right? It's
You stayed there
very
for 7, you
intense.
said,
I
right?
stayed there for 6. I went Sunday morning and I was like, I have to be back for Shabbos.
Yeah.
So I took like I had like an 8 a.m. flight from Cancun Friday morning back to Miami.
The
And
program wasn't done.
right, it wasn't they needed to monitor you longer. Like and I was still I guess still tripping out. Like major I don't remember getting to the airport. I don't remember taking luggage.
You
I
made your
just
way through.
I remember being freezing and I was on American Airlines and they I was in a wheelchair. And an American Airlines stewardess took, you know, they have like those little sweaters.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
She took her sweater and put it over me.
Really?
And when I landed, I don't know. And I just like ended up, and my wife apparently like I had lost my phone. She was trying to call me, and I had lost it like a couple days before. I had
Wow.
no idea. Like wasn't interested in the phone.
Yeah.
She thought I was dead for 2 days.
Really?
And then I like knocked on the door on Friday afternoon.
And you were home.
And she's like, I looked like death. Like I looked pale, like my eyes were like black.
Really?
And she's like, I
I can
came
see that's
home.
why it's scary. I can see why it's scary to people.
Right. And she's like, I came home and I got into bed and I woke up like Sunday afternoon. Like Friday afternoon, I slept till like Sunday afternoon.
Wow.
Um,
And you don't remember much of that.
zero. I don't know how I got back.
Wow.
I think
But
they sent
but
someone
since
that
then,
drove me and then
so
sent
then
me
what
back here.
happens? So you wake up Sunday and then you're like, I never want to do this again, and you stopped cold turkey. What'd you do?
Yeah. Oh, no, no. I was done. I was like, I remember the day after, they don't give you the Iboga until like you start going through a little withdrawal. And I remember going through the withdrawal a little bit, and I'm telling them like, I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready. Like, okay, okay, maybe another hour. They're like pushing me. And then after doing it, like after the trip, the initial trip was over, I remember just lying in my room, just being like, I have no withdrawal whatsoever. It was like I'm free.
Wow.
It was like it was such like a liberating feeling. And not only that, but like I never ever wanted to take a pill again. Like I saw that skull and bones
Yeah, path.
path.
Yeah.
Like it was vivid. It's still vivid in my mind.
Yeah.
And I was like, I would never, as I was telling you, I would even get a thing that says opiate allergic,
Yeah.
a bracelet, in
Yeah.
case, like, God forbid something happens, like, not to,
Not to be
um,
able to get any more.
so just to change, like, it totally changed my whole perspective on things. I called my parents, like, I had been, like, in a little bit of a falling out with them
Mhm.
about stuff, and I apologized to them. I,
Wow.
like, explained to them stories that I had seen about them and about their parents.
And what'd they say?
They were like, blunt. They were like, Shlomy, I've never heard you talk like this before. Like, this is so amazing. This is so amazing. Um, and yeah, forgave a lot of people in my life, moved on, like, realized, like,
So it
everything is
provided
about
a new
love.
perspective.
Everything is like, yeah, you see that everything is about love, that, like, we're all organisms with nature and each other, and we're all supposed to be symbiotic.
Does that feeling fade? Because I know that when I took LSD, I felt that way, but then it faded after X amount of time.
That's why I think Ibogaine is different. And I had that feeling on ayahuasca. I did ayahuasca too. I had that feeling, but that feeling went away after a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And you have to like do it again. For some reason, Iboga, I don't know,
It's much more intense.
maybe they just dosed me high. I don't know. Maybe for opiate addiction, they dosed me high, but like it was, God willing, we'll be bringing it to FDA approval, and this will
So
be the
yeah,
new
so
solution
so
for
how
opiate
how do you
addiction.
go? How did you decide to go about that, and what do you do about it?
I came back and it was like a couple months later, and I'm just like, this is so amazing. Like,
Yeah.
I had owned drug rehabs myself too.
So at that point, you were already owning drug rehabs.
Yeah, I had
And
that.
how'd you get into that?
I mean, I
Just
had a
someone.
cousin. One of my cousins was into it. My family's in healthcare.
Okay.
I had a lot of friends who were addicted to stuff, and like I don't know. I just felt like it was
So what were you doing? You were doing management, administration.
yeah. I owned 3 facilities, and I had operators, and we took care of.
What was it like dealing with the paperwork and the yellow tape?
It's a pain in the ass. You
How
have
do
to
you do it?
fight with insurance companies, and they this, and you have to
Do you do it
document
personally, or you hired
everything.
people to do it?
We had a company that did the billing, but like I feel like they didn't try hard, even though they got paid percentage wise on what they
Yeah,
collected,
I imagine.
but like they would take like 100 of the lowest hanging fruit and not attack like the top 10 biggest ones that were hard to get.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know, it was hard. And also like I felt like I was hurting people. Like these drug rehabs don't do anything. Everyone relapses and you detox
Do you
them
know
and they die.
percentages about that? Like
Yeah.
because I know that, for example, the
It's in
percentage of
like
people that,
almost 80s and 90%
but that's the
relapse.
people that are forced to go, right?
Not necessarily. Mm-mm.
Really, even the people that willingly check themselves in, is still have a 80%
I'm
relapse.
doing my internship right now, Recovery Unplugged. That's Andrew Sossin, he lives here. He
Yeah.
started with like Aerosmith,
Okay.
and it's a music-based drug rehab.
Okay.
And I was talking to a guy, and it was his seventh time at Recovery Unplugged, right? And I was like, Sam, I was like, maybe you should do. I was like, your family has money. Why don't you go to Mexico and do Iboga? I was like, keep coming back.
Yeah.
These places aren't working. And he said something interesting to me. He's like, the first time I came, I wasn't ready. The second time I came, I was like 10% ready. The third time, 40% ready.
That's what it is. You're not
And
ready to deal with it
and
until you're
that's what he
ready to
said.
deal
He's
with
like,
it.
sometimes you got to come through the system like 7, 8 times, but there's gonna be a time, and as long as you don't die in between, as he said,
Yeah, but assuming you don't die, that's a big if.
I know,
Especially
especially
because
with fentanyl,
I feel like the
fentanyl
odds
on the
get
streets.
higher and higher every time you leave, every time you relapse. I feel like the odds get higher, right?
So I don't know. I mean, it's right now it's the best system that they have, but it's like a little mini prison system. We're just gonna like force you to not do drugs for 3 months until your insurance stops paying for it, and then we'll release you and you do drugs again, and then you come back. So I don't know. It doesn't work. But
So you said, why don't you try to do Ibogaine?
so I came back and I was like, how is this not FDA approved? Like, I was realizing how many people were dying from my facility,
Yeah.
and that's when I realized that Deborah Mash, who I had spoken to, was actually the one trying to bring it to FDA approval. Spoke to her. She was like, "It's amazing that you're calling me now. I'm in bankruptcy. I got her company out of bankruptcy, and this is 2016,
Okay.
and we're moving like with this now. Hopefully with RFK and a friendly FDA who's just not more interested in opiates, approving more opiates and drugs that'll hurt people than actually helping people.
Yeah.
That this might get approved.
Yeah.
It'll revolutionize drug treatment.
Do you think it will?
Treatment. Well, get approved?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You think it will?
Mm-hmm.
Because
the veterans with traumatic brain injury and PTSD, this is the only thing that works. The VA, it costs them what, $50 billion a year to deal with the vets, and then drug addiction is at its highest levels in the United States.
what do you do about the fact that it's a money printing machine and that they're going to fight tooth and nail to stop you from taking away their income?
This administration, what do you mean? He just announced yesterday about vaccines. You know that childhood vaccines?
They now have to go through
Placebo trials.
Yeah.
Do you understand how crazy?
First time ever.
Do you know how crazy that is? That you're giving your baby a shot that never had a placebo trial?
I haven't.
There's
or at least not for half my kids.
Okay, I'm saying, but that's never. This is the realization I came to after learning. I had to. Okay, back to vaccines. I had to learn. I'm a yeshiva guy. Like, I didn't know anything about biotech, and I got this company out of bankruptcy. I had a guy who helped me, an attorney, and a biotech guy. But like, I was the guy, and they put me on the board. And I was like, I know nothing about FDA approval, drug manufacturing, good manufacturing
So what do
practices.
you do when you're over your head?
I read.
You just learn.
All the information is there, especially when the yeshivas I went to, there's nothing in the world that somebody knows that I cannot learn.
Right.
And that's really, truly.
So you learn that skill set. You have that toolbox where you learn how to learn. You know how to consume new information.
Right. And I know how to think for myself and not be told. Like, I was taught in yeshiva, like, if you had a kasha that the Rebbe couldn't answer, you were the man.
Right.
Like, you just, and he told you that. He's like, that is an amazing question.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not like that in college. You'll be like, those questions are not asked here. That's a racist question or something. You know, they teach you how to think.
Yeah.
They teach you what to think, not how to think.
Yeah.
And yeshivas teach you how to think. It's like I always, my whole life, questioned everything. And there's always an answer. There's always an answer.
There's always
not an answer. There's a reason why there's not an answer. You know,
what do you mean?
it might be. And it just might be time. I don't know. Like, what does this mean?
Like you have
you don't have the tools right now to understand the answer, but it'll come. And it's like you feel like you understand that you don't have the tools. So I bought I asked someone. He gave me 3 books about biotech. I read them, and I was like, long-term safety studies. Like, how long is this going to take us? Okay, vaccines. And when I started looking into vaccines. And I only started looking into vaccines when they came out with the COVID vaccine.
Yeah, of course, like everyone else.
I was like, what the fuck is this? Why am I being forced to take this? I felt like there's so much pressure. Do it for your mother, grandmother, save your neighbor. You're this. And it's like getting hostile. To me, I started questioning, like, what? I started researching no studies, Operation Warp Speed, and then regular vaccines. I was like, there's no safety studies on regular vaccines. And this was warp speeded. Meaning there's no studies, there's nothing. It's literally a shot in the dark. And I was like, and it's a brand new mRNA technology. And I have a friend of mine, Kagan.
Some people say that it's not brand new though, that it's been worked on for a while. It's been
worked on since '89. Robert Malone.
So it's not brand new.
Okay, but the technology is they've never deployed it into humans before.
Right.
And Robert Malone, that's a guy who he was on a podcast at the beginning. Yeah. On Rogan?
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah, it was Rogan.
Robert Malone was the one who invented mRNA in 1989.
Yeah.
And he said every primate we tested it on died within a year. Like, that's what he said. He's like, do not take this. I invented it. Do not take it. And I'm like, and then all of a sudden that whole Rogan was taken offline.
Yeah.
And then, like, there was another, like, Brett Weinstein.
Yeah, Brett and Eric Weinstein.
With, like, another guy. All of a sudden, that's scrubbed from the internet.
Yeah.
And then Tucker Carlson or someone else was, like, scrubbed. I'm like, whoa, what's going on here? Like, I'd never been so involved in, like, media before that.
Yeah.
And I was like, but this is just disappearing. I was
It
like,
gets
"This
you
is something."
invested.
I was like, something's up. So like, I refused to take the COVID vaccine and started doing a deep dive into all vaccines. And I could give you a couple of books, Turtles all the way down,
Yeah.
and Dissolving Illusions. You will see these are all scams. It's a money-making scam to make you sick when you're a baby.
Have you ever spent time studying the other side, the response to Turtles All the Way Down or whatever it is? And
Hmm.
can you make what's the argument against your argument?
The argument is just from, I think it's not a rational argument. It's just like they're repeating tropes of
Which is
vaccines could
save
save
millions of
millions of
lives.
lives, but it's not true.
But if you ask them to source, you ask them to.
There's no sources and there's no anything. They're just repeating, repeating, repeating. I'm telling, it's unbelievable, and they make you sick. I didn't vaccinate my youngest kid. He's never been to a doctor. He's never been to a doctor.
How
All
old
my
is he?
other kids, he's 5.
And he's totally healthy. Thank
All
God.
my other kids have ear infections, strep, coughs, asthma, all of them. It's crazy. It's crazy. And these are all side effects that are on the label of
Sure.
vaccines.
Do you think that? Do you think that?
And guess what? Measles and mumps, these things, my father had measles when he was a kid. He was like, it's just like chickenpox.
Yeah,
Did you have chickenpox when you were a
I
kid?
did have chickenpox when
I
I was a kid.
also did, and it wasn't a big. I think my neighbor had chickenpox, and my mother brought me over to play with her,
Yeah, I
so I got
watched.
chickenpox.
I watched James the Giant Peach and ate
Right,
ice cream in the bathtub,
right.
and I had
And I think I had
chickenpox.
almond oatmeal bath or something.
Yes, 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 yes,
But
yes.
like, we wanted to get it because then you have immunity.
Yeah, yeah,
But that's why now they have a varicella vaccine, so no kids get chickenpox.
yeah.
But is that good? These diseases aren't fatal or dangerous. Even meningitis. Meningitis is only fatal if you're not anywhere near a hospital for like after you contract it for 6 months. Then it slowly eats away at a person's brain. If a kid gets meningitis, they can go to the doctor and they get a vitamin A shot and it's gone.
Yeah.
And some antibiotics. Like these are easily treatable. So what we're doing is we're injecting them with, the adjuvants inside vaccines, aluminum, formaldehyde, mercury.
I thought aluminum is which one? Aluminum mercury. I thought was phased out of vaccines.
I don't know.
I thought one
It
of
doesn't
those
matter.
two.
But like when I was a kid, all of them had both of
All
them.
of them had it. Yeah,
And
yeah.
like and then fluoride and all these like these are all neurotoxins, and we're injecting our
So
babies.
is the answer that?
Hashem makes
So
bodies perfect.
would you say that this is just?
It's scientism. It's denying God and thinking that humans could trump God.
But it's not, but it can't even be that because the people that are doing the research and conducting those studies, they know there's no studies. There's no background. They know that there's no.
They are basing it on
It's not demonstrable
antibody response.
antibody response.
Yeah, that if they inject a kid
And
with this and
ignore
their
the side effects.
antibodies,
Ignore the.
exactly.
And you think that it's like
Ignore
almost
long-term
like
damage. Ignore everything.
it's almost like selective hearing,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
with
That's all. That's what RFK yesterday announced. He's like, it's all about antibody. He's like, no, we're going to do real research. Listen, if they have real, truly safe vaccines, that's a godsend. That's an amazing thing.
yeah,
But
keep them.
these are fake. The vaccines we have are fake. When my parents were kids, they had 2 vaccines. I think the polio and one other one.
Measles, mumps,
I don't know.
smallpox.
Smallpox.
Smallpox is a big
Smallpox
one.
and yeah,
Yeah,
and polio.
yeah.
And then when I was a kid, I had 12. You know how many our kids have?
72.
72. That's
72.
crazy.
72.
They're money makers. And by the way, the money that they make isn't even about giving the vaccines. It's about lifetime of being in a doctor's office.
I was talking to my students yesterday, actually, about conspiracy theories. We're just having fun. I was explaining to them where the root of a lot of it comes from, and we're talking about what regulatory capture meant. And I was like,
How old are your students?
10th grade.
Okay.
I was like, what does regulation mean? And we get to the root of regulation, right? To regulate, which is to control I was like, so great. So I was like, what does regulatory capture mean? What does it mean, capture of control? Like, controlling who controls what, right? I was like, great. I was like, every conspiracy theory you ever heard comes down to that, right? But the question always becomes, what is the potential risk versus the payoff? Right. So, for example, and this is a real life case that happens to me. I've talked about this on the podcast before, but with the COVID vaccine, I initially took it, and I told him, and I was arguing with my mom about it at the Shabbos table on Shabbos afternoon in 2021.
You got the first 2?
I got the first 2. I got Moderna, and
Did you get a booster?
I didn't get a booster, no.
Okay.
After the first two, 6 months later, I was already like, I shouldn't have taken that. But 6 months later, I already took it. So, by the way, with the information that I had at the time, I probably would have taken it again.
It
But
was very hard for me to hold back.
so I told my mom, I was like, Ema, come on. I was like, you think there's a conspiracy to give billions of people a
Your
vaccine
mother
that's
was
gonna?
against it?
My mother did not want it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, come on. I was like, even if you don't think it works, there's no way it's going to hurt everyone. It's no way that people are out there to hurt people and make money on that. And I'm like, oh my God, they're out there to hurt people and make money on that. Like, and so when I was explaining to my students, I'm like, the bigger the risk, the bigger the payoff. But then when the risk doesn't work out, right? And so I was like, so actually, a lot of the risk keeps the people that would be behind the conspiracy theories in check because they don't want to lose they don't want to, show their hand, right? So I think pharmaceutical companies got so greedy that they were willing to extend their hand for the risk. So I was like, think about this, right? How much money did they make on the COVID vaccine? How much money have they lost since then based on just distrust because of how far they pushed the COVID vaccine?
Okay, but
So it wasn't worth it for them.
now Pfizer's biggest drug is cancer and myocarditis drugs,
Are they?
which are caused by the COVID
Yeah, of
vaccine.
course. Really?
And that's what all of this stuff is. They give children things, and
Pfizer, since the COVID vaccine has come out with
I follow
myocarditis
biotech. Yes, they bought 3 cancer companies that use AI to target specific cancers, and their newest things would be cancer drugs.
and
Everyone's
myocarditis.
getting turbo cancer. You don't hear about this?
I've heard about it, but I don't.
I've had 5 friends drop dead.
You had 5 friends.
Yeah, yeah. One of them was one of the cola guys in Miami Beach's wife, 42 years old,
Drop dead.
dropped dead of a heart attack, like 2 weeks after her third dose. I mean, you can't trust these people. It's chashud amamayna, chashud hashvuasa. It's a Gemara concept. They're suspect of greed. They don't care about your life. They want money. And the money isn't even in the vaccines. It's about the perpetual sickness that occurs.
Yeah, the pharmaceutical treadmill is what it's called.
You're exposing your children. Hashem made our bodies perfect. That's what they say. Don't even give your kid Tylenol if they have a fever. Because the fever is between 100 and 102. And that is a perfect temperature to kill bad viruses in your body and bacteria, but not the good bacteria.
I know,
It's
but
a perfect temperature.
I know from my own experience that when you're a parent and you're a first time parent and you have a kid that's a year old and they're hot and they can't sleep and they're crying and they're miserable, you want a solution.
I'm telling you right now, if you don't vaccinate your kid, she will not get fever. She will not have fever. That all of these illnesses that your babies get are because they were just vaccinated, and they're always after their wellness visits. That's when they give them more vaccines.
Kids get fevers from their teeth growing in. Kids get fevers from going to play. Of course they're gonna be fine, but my point is that it's a lot easier said. What parents, especially young parents that are first time parents, they want answers more than anything. People look for stability. And that's why authority is so attractive, because authority is the equivalent of confidence and stability. I know this. I spent X amount of time studying this and researching this. How much time have you spent? 0? What do you do for a living? You're a teacher and you do sales and you do a podcast. Guess what? Mind your own business. Sit in the corner. Let the professionals tell you what to do. What?
You think doctors research this?
No. By the way,
most doctors I've spoken to, they are just taught in school to follow orders in a book. And that's why even in my school right now, we have the DSM-5, right? The Diagnostic Statistical Manual about mental illness.
Okay.
It's a bullshit book.
Is it?
Yeah. Meaning you could diagnose anyone with bipolar, and there's no difference between bipolar 2 and just having a really bad day.
What is bipolar 2 technically?
Bipolar 2 is just like you don't have major mood swings, but like you have like you're happy in the morning and then like you're sad at night.
Yeah.
Like, that's just a bad day.
Yeah. You know the great bit about that? What's his name? Kevin James? I think I used to be fat at all the Adam Sandler movies and King of Queens or whatever. He has a new Amazon special. He was pre-diabetic. He was, am I diabetic or am I not diabetic? He's like, well, he goes, if all of us, if you're diabetic, you're in one camp, and we're not diabetic. We're in this camp. You're a little bit closer to this camp than we are, but I'm not diabetic yet." He's like, "No, you're not diabetic yet." He goes, "I'm still in the pre-diabetic range." He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "So I'm okay." He's like, "Yeah, but you could not be." And then he goes, "Okay, but," and then he goes, he tells the doctor, he's like, "Do you have diabetes?" He's like, "No." He's like, "Could you get diabetes?" He's like, "I guess, yeah." He goes, "So you're pre-diabetic too?" And he's like, "Well, yeah, I guess so, but."
It just came out. I want to listen to it.
Yeah, it's very good. It's on Amazon. It's, I'd probably give it a B plus in terms of comedy. Do you like stand-up comedy?
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably give it a B to B plus. I went to see Ari Shafir here the other week.
Really? He was here?
He was here. He was in Dania Point.
What?
Yeah, he did, I think, 2 or 3 nights. He went on Thursday night.
Did you watch his Jew one?
What'd you think of it?
Crazy.
I loved it.
I loved it also.
I loved it. I loved it.
A little like
It was pushing the envelope. It was raunchy.
It was like, you know what? He gave like a good.
He was fair.
Yeah, about Yeshiva and everything.
Yeah.
Like, and he was on Tucker Carlson. Did you?
Yeah,
that?
I watched that too.
And
I thought that was excellent.
Like, Tucker was like, really? They just study and try to do kindness all day? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. He's like, that's amazing.
His laugh, dude.
It's crazy.
You know what? I can't get over. I can't. He drives me crazy.
Tucker.
I think but he gets the best guy.
Though he's turning into an anti-Semite. Like
no, so I'm gonna push back. I don't think he is. Here's what I'm gonna say. People are incredibly
Candace Owens, and I'm not on Ben Shapiro's side, but I'm telling you right now, from how they speak,
Candace Owens is not the same thing as Tucker Carlson.
I think they're on the same page, and I think his whole issue with Israel is not America first. It's not America first. We have always protected Israel. They've been our greatest allies. It is important for us to have Middle East stability.
So let me ask this. So let me ask.
And guess what? I don't trust Netanyahu. By the way,
I don't either.
I'm not a Zionist.
But I have a friend that came that I did a podcast with who made a remarkable point that I never thought of, and that is, if Bibi was out tomorrow, the person that replaced him would be a lot worse than Bibi is, right? And that Bibi's hands are tied right now because he's barely keeping his coalition alive, and if he sneezes the wrong way, right, the entire government shuts down, falls apart, and so right now. He's in a unique scenario, and I don't think and I think that particularly American politicians that don't know the Israeli system of politics, I don't think they quite understand that if they decide, like America doesn't live in a world where like if people decide that there's just a government shutdown, Congress decides there's a government shutdown, and then the president is just removed, and then like you just have new elections. We don't have that in America, so America doesn't understand that about Israel politics. I don't love Bibi by any stretch of the imagination either, especially after the last couple of years. I think I think that he did probably more harm for Israel than good, especially when it comes to our relationship with America, and especially when it comes to our optics in the rest of the world. I think that if Hamas had any kind of plan, and the plan was to lose public favor, for Israel to lose public favor in the world's eyes, they 1,000% accomplished their plan. And I don't think they give a flying crap about all the lives that are lost in the process of doing that. My heart breaks, and I think about this a lot. If South Florida got bombed because of a decision that Trump or Biden or Bush or Obama or anyone or Clinton or Reagan or anyone made, I would never forgive them. If my family, I'm working so hard to keep together and to grow, and I'm struggling every day of my life to try to provide the best for my family and create the most meaningful and healthy and organic and wholesome life, and I get blown up because of something else that someone else says or someone else does that's outside of my control, I would be so upset. I'd be mortified. Now, I don't know what percentage of the people have absolutely nothing to do with Hamas in Gaza. I don't know what percentage of people. I don't think anyone will ever know because I don't think the numbers are ever going to be accurate. The answer is not 100. The answer is not 100%. Right? I don't think 100% of the people living in Gaza, 100% of the Palestinians are pro-Hamas in this war and are still suffering the consequences of being in a place that they can't control, where they're just trying to live their lives and their lives get blown up. I think that's sad. I'm sad that Israel has to do that, and I'm sad that Israel gets the optics for that. It's Hamas's fault. I understand, and I do believe
the Oslo Accords.
It is Hamas's fault 100%, and all this is a battle of optics, and no one on the pro-Israel side is intelligent enough or eloquent or articulate enough to say, guys, I agree with you. It is awful that children and women and babies are getting blown up. How come they don't say that? That's all you gotta say. No, they don't. I don't hear it. I listen to these and I listen to podcasts and I listen to debates and I listen to all this stuff, and no one represents Israel. Everyone has the same condescending, stupid, authoritarian perspective. You have to like Israel. They've always been a great. Guess what? Acknowledge that that this sucks. Acknowledge that this isn't ideal,
But Israel,
and
first
you
of all,
will
a
get
quarter of the
honesty.
population are Americans. A quarter of the population of Israel, I don't know if that number is right, but
But
there's
it's a
so
lot.
many
Yeah,
American dual citizenships.
sure.
It's American Jews who are living there. There's so many Americans who live in America who have places in Israel, who have family in Israel. It's such an intertwined country. And we have done everything the American governments, whichever president was there, Clinton, Obama, Bush's, we've done everything. We've given up Gaza, we've released control, we've taken our own people out of there, we've done everything. We've taken the partitions, the maps keep getting smaller. And it's like what Ben Shapiro says. The only thing is like if Israel would lay down its arms, we would be murdered by Hamas. If Hamas put down their arms,
Right, but I
they
don't.
would live in
I
Riviera.
so
And I
so
think that's true.
it is true, but that's not a good enough answer. The reason why it's not a good enough answer
But
is
geopolitically, we always take care of our allies. We always
correct.
do.
Sure,
So
I'm
I'm
not
saying
talking about.
Ukraine,
I'm not talking about
it's
America.
totally different than Ukraine. But I'm talking about Tucker Carlson specifically.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, whenever I hear him, whenever it comes about Jews, I think he's an Episcopalian, and Candace is a Catholic, and both of those evangelicals love Jews and Protestants, like Baptist or whatever, Southern Baptist, even Episcopalian and Catholics do not like Jews. They take the New Testament literally. Jews are the house of Satan. We're the Antichrist. We killed Jesus. They don't like us. And I think it's coming out whenever it comes up, and Israel is just a front. It's a
I
front.
think I,
Tucker is, I'm
I
telling
think
you,
it's plausible. I'm not even saying you're wrong. What
it's
I'm
just my
saying is,
feeling. It's what I feel. I'm not
okay,
saying I'm
yeah,
right.
yeah. I'm not. By the way, I don't. You could
Because
be
I
right.
love Tucker.
You
Like I
could be
always
right.
loved Tucker. He
I
has such investigative journalism. He was talking about things nobody else was talking about.
right. That's
But
what's valuable.
whenever it comes to Israel or Jews, he changes. And guess what? I love Candace Owens too. I
Yeah.
always listen to her. She has a whole series called Shot in the Dark about vaccines. You ever heard that?
No, I
Oh
haven't.
my
I want
God.
to actually listen to the Bridget and the what do you call it?
Macron?
The Macron. I want to listen to the
That's a
Macron
crazy
thing.
one. But I'm telling you, she did a deep dive. I think they stopped her. And she was going through each vaccine. And she did a deep hour podcast on each vaccine, showing you how BS it is.
Yeah.
It's called A Shot in the Dark. And I loved her for that. I loved her. Like it was during COVID when I was like learning about this.
So I don't. But what she said and what Tucker said and what I agree with, and I think what a lot of people have to understand, and I think that there's an enormous sensitivity. Criticizing the government of Israel's actions is not anti-Semitic.
I'm not talking about that.
I know, but I think that a lot of people do. And I think, and I'm not talking about you. I think
Not at
people in
all.
general,
I honestly
like
think,
the biggest American patriots, are the people that say
October
America
7th,
could be better.
I
I
think
love
October
America.
7th was an inside job.
You
I
think
think,
so?
yeah,
I think so too. By the way,
I think they let it happen. I think they let it happen. And
and I think it's terrible. I think it's
it's
terrible.
unforgivable. It's unforgivable. They should all be on a tribunal and hanged. Like the head of the Shin Bet, the head of the Mossad, I think they all knew it was going to happen and they let it happen for political shit. Probably maybe to get Netanyahu out of office. I don't know what the motivation is.
Maybe to bomb Gaza to pieces.
Maybe. I don't know what it is, but
And
I know
that's a
that
sick
something
thing.
is stinks.
And that's a
Something
sick thing. And
stinks.
that is not what's best for Jews. It's not what's best for the
Agreed.
world. It's not what's best for
Agreed.
Israel.
I
It's not
don't
what's
trust
best.
Zionism. I tell people whenever people, and I would love to move to Israel. Like I'm looking at buying. Hope I want to buy something like in Ashkelon. Like I think there's like a new building coming. I can get it for like cheap.
I love Ashkelon.
I want to move
Spent
there.
a lot of
But
time there when I
I'm
was in
not
Israel
a
for the year.
Zionist.
Yeah.
I tell people they're like, oh, vote for the World Zionist or Congress or whatever's happening now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not registering for anything that says Zionist in it. I don't understand what it is.
Why?
Because it's an ism to me. It's like yeshivish ism. It's a Zionism. It's communism. It's
Yes.
socialism. I don't want isms.
Yeah.
I love Am Yisrael and I love Eretz Yisrael.
Yeah.
I'm
You know,
not
the
a
Jewish people,
Zionist.
and they love Jewish land. Yeah.
I love Jewish people and I love the land of Israel.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know what Zionism is. It's a
Yeah.
political movement that I don't understand.
Because, by the way, there's so many different heads and there's so many
Exactly.
different
What is
branches, and it's
this?
so
It's just, I think it's just people making another ism so they could be at the head of it, and they're using us as just cogs in their Zionism thing. I'm not involved. I'm not a Zionist.
right,
But like, I would join Sahal to protect my Jewish brothers and sisters
right,
who are living there.
right.
You know, but I'm not
So
fighting for the country.
I think that there needs to be more voice. So I think that we lose a lot of credibility, especially after the last 10 years, when a lot of Jews scream anti-Semitism instead of responding to a particular. For example, right? I talked about this actually. I do solo episodes every now and then, and I listened to a Candace Owen episode. I forgot who she was talking to. I have to remember, but she was talking about Israel a little bit, and she was saying like, "Oh, it doesn't make any sense in America's in the Middle East." Guess what? It does make a lot of sense in America's in the Middle East because there's an enormous amount of wealth, and she's like, America didn't get anything from all those wars. Guess what? People got stuff out of those wars. People got wealth out of those wars. People got power and influence, and the people that wanted to wage those wars waged those wars. I don't think that it was directly Israel's fault, but I also think that instead of telling Candace Owens, "You're a lunatic Zionist," and then posting that all over Twitter and flipping out over about it, if I could just say, "Hey, I understand where you're coming from. I hear where your conclusion you're coming to. Have you ever considered the fact that America really did benefit from the wars that are happening in the Middle East? And not all of America, but particular people in America had particular interests. And if you want to say that particular people in Israel did too, that's fine. But don't lie to me and tell me that Israel convinced everyone in America to join for exclusively Israel's sake and America got nothing out of it. Like, I don't think that's true. And like, I think that it's important to be able to
Candace
have that
and
conversation.
Tucker have both made comments about how the American government works for AIPAC.
Yeah.
And they're just Israeli shills for the Israeli government. Like, that's so conspiratorial. And that's why I don't mind if she criticizes the government. I don't like the Israeli government. But when she starts talking about we have to have nothing to do with Israel, it's coming. You never watch that Douglas Murray where he responded to Candace? It was months ago.
No, I kind of lost. I lost a lot of respect for Douglas Murray after his debate with Dave Smith.
Oh, yeah, that was weird.
That was terrible. I was so excited for it.
I know,
I
because
was
he was
so
like saying, "Have
excited,
you
and
ever been
he
there?"
he 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 shot himself in the foot probably 5 or 6 times in a huge way. And by the time he had a couple of really good points, that by the time he got to them, he ruined all his credibility. That there was no way that there was
I
ever
think
going
he
to be
was too
processed.
condescending to him.
He was disgusting.
Right, that was a problem. It's his, but at the end of the day, he makes good points. Like he's very.
It's not because you lose those points, and you lose the people, and you lose the followers, you lose the
Oh, no, but this
listeners.
is like 8 months ago. He had a response to Candace Owens, and it was very, very
Eloquent.
fair, middle of the road. The government might have major issues, but these are our allies, and they have an existential threat, and it's a tiny little country
Yeah.
that has done everything to try to make
Yeah.
peace with their Arab
Yes.
neighbors, and
Yes.
they don't care. And these Arab neighbors, it's not like, oh, Russia doesn't have in their charter to kill all Ukrainians and drive them into the
Yeah.
Black Sea.
Yeah.
That's not in their charter. That's is in the charter for in the Palestinian in the West Bank and in Gaza.
Yeah.
This is their charter. Like
Yeah.
to kill, to do genocide, and you have to. We should protect them. I don't know. You're right. It's complicated.
It's so but I think
I
I
have
think
the
that it's
feeling
important.
Candace and Tucker, and there's a guy Coffee and COVID I read in the morning. Jeff Childers. You should read it. It's great. It's like on Substack.
Okay.
He's hilarious, and he has such a good. His fingers on the pulse. He shows you all the BS from the New York Times and the Washington Post, and
But Tucker's guests are like A+
I know.
quality. He has such.
I
So
spoke
I
to him.
hate the way he interviews because it's the same gotcha journalism that is the corporate media in the sense that he phrases questions as statements that completely push the narrative, right?
Right.
You know, so it'd be like, oh, state of Israel. You go, so when you tell a country to do that, they're like, oh, but it sounds like they hate you. Like, why do they, do they hate you, and why do they hate you? Like, what? You just changed the entire premise of a question that was supposed to be open ended. You just took miles and miles of potential area that you could be answering, and you narrowed it down to one little road, which is why do they hate you? And that's not journalism. And by the way, what I do appreciate about him in the same breath is that he does break all these stories and talk about people that would never, like, I think that journalism is hard to define. I think that it is introducing new perspectives
100%.
so that for people to be able to come to their own conclusions, and he does that exceptionally well. I don't like the questions that he asks when he's interviewing, but I think that the quality guests that he gets and the type of conversations that he have are extremely valuable regardless, because they provide other perspectives that just give food for thought.
So can I just say that I love Tucker Carlson, but I just don't think he likes Jews?
Yeah, sure you could. By the way, I think that about Dave Smith. I love Dave Smith. I don't think he likes Jews. I think he's very unfair to Jews in Israel.
Which, by the way, I sometimes also don't like Jews.
I hear.
Like Jews are like if you ever listen to Kanye about what happened to him, do you understand why he hates Jews?
No.
He had a Jewish manager who stole everything from him.
Did he?
Who got him into a contract that basically his manager made like 70% of all of his proceeds, and he gave Kanye 30. And he signed it when he was like 19 years old. And he worked for like decades. Yeah, totally. For like decades to get out of that contract. And he lost so much money, and he was this and that. I would also Jews. Let's say the Jews are the best people I've ever met are Jews, and the worst people I've ever met are Jews. The worst.
Yeah, for every great Arnold Lopiansky,
right? There's a Jeffrey
Chuck Schumer's,
Jeffrey Epstein, Harvey Weinstein, Bernie Madoff's. A Jew without Yiddishkeit is the worst piece of shit on the face of the earth.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to say without Yiddishkeit, which is like without morals.
Without the direction.
Like, we're so smart, we're so sneaky, we could figure out how to collapse an entire banking system because we whatever.
Yeah.
What are we at?
We're good. We're good. We're at about 2 hours and 15 minutes.
Should we wrap it up?
Well, wrap it up. I want to wrap up, though. I want to wrap up with the last bit of hope for psychedelics. So I want to ask two things. I want you to repeat the story to me again with the twins, with the girl, and then I want to ask what you're planning on, what your hopes for the future and your plans are for trying to help legalize Ibogaine or.
So ayahuasca is legal if you have a religious exemption because it's used in Mesoamerican religious cultures. So because of freedom of religion here, you could get in, I forgot what it's called, a 501c6 something, which is a nonprofit religious
exemption.
You become like a church of ayahuasca. That's what Tikkun Healing has here. Okay. And there's a few other places. So it's legal to do it there. Ayahuasca, which is DMT based, which is like Ibogaine and peyote, it's dimethyltryptamine as opposed to like mushrooms or psilocybin.
Yeah.
It opens you up. Like it's the pineal gland secretes this when a person's born and when they die.
Yeah, DMT.
The DMT, you can actually get it and secrete it through your pineal gland through breath work, crazy breath work. And I think it's very important for deep trauma, especially I think after World War II, we're just dealing with a world of deep trauma. And pain. It just keeps getting perpetuated throughout the generations. So I've had experiences with ayahuasca. I used to take addicts from Miami to Mexico to do Iboga, drug addicts. Uh-huh. But that I didn't really focus on the trip with them so much. More of just like the healing and
just get them there,
get them off of opiates. It wasn't really what you see, what you experience. But with Tikkun, I was taking some people to do ayahuasca, and it's just it's like the ultimate catharsis, right? Catharsis is Freud's way of when you talk about your pain, you let it out, right? And crying and laughing is your way of. It's words that it's words you don't know how to verbalize.
Yeah.
Your soul just makes it come out as tears or laughter.
Yeah.
And I think that ayahuasca, these DMT things do that. And it goes, it's like a deep dive into yourself, into who you are, your true nature, your history, your past. And there was a few crazy stories that I had. Just don't know, like HIPAA violation, if I'm allowed to. I mean, if she hears this, she would know I'm talking about her, but.
Is that a HIPAA violation?
I don't know.
I don't think so. As long as it's completely anonymous.
So it was a person who, they were depressed. from literally 5, 6 years old. This is what her parents said. In and out of treatment-resistant depression. Finally, her parents was like, we want her to do ayahuasca. She came to do ayahuasca, and we were there to help her with integration and whatever, just holding space. She did it, and she afterwards, I was like we were talking, she said that she said ayahuasca took her back to her mother's womb. And when she was in her womb, there was another baby in there with her. And then when she came out of the womb, it was just her by herself. And that when she was on ayahuasca, she met her sister, who she didn't know that she had, who had died. She was a stillborn. And her sister's neshama told her that she is perfectly happy.
Yeah.
Her soul said that I'm perfectly happy in heaven. I'm sitting next to God. Everything is good. I'm living in utter joy and bliss. And I'm waiting for you. And you need to let me go and live your life. Get married. Have a happy life. I even think she told her like a name of who she's going to marry and how many kids she's going to have. But like that can't be confirmed yet.
Sure. Yeah.
And then we called her mother. She called her mother when we were there, and she said she's telling her the story. And her mother, there was just a silence on the phone. And we heard her mother like muffle the phone and ask the husband if he ever told her.
Yeah.
And he responded, we heard, why would I ever tell her? What would that ever help her?
Yeah.
And we immediately realized that like this was true, that she had a twin, and the twin was a stillborn. Her parents had never told her about it, and that her entire life she was depressed because she missed this other piece of her.
Yeah.
Because twins are really one cell, right? Was it meiosis or whatever it's called?
Yeah.
Where they split, and that she was missing her, and that she finally got this release from that other soul, telling her to go live her life. It was a wild story. It's one of the
craziest stories I've ever heard in my entire life, by the way.
There was another guy he was a sex addict. He was like a porn addict and prostitutes and things, and was married, divorced, and he went back. Ayahuasca took him back. This is a wild story, to when he was being conceived. And he was like in the bedroom with his parents.
No way.
And he saw how his father was just using his mother for sexual lust.
Yeah.
And there was no love whatsoever in that union. And that's what he was born from.
Wow.
And he realized that his sex addiction was because of that.
That coldness, that pain.
And he stopped. He's free from his sex addiction.
Wow.
Like these are so.
So what do you do to what's this?
I think Iboga, we're trying with Ibogaine. Like I think that is the most potent DMT psychedelic out there, and it works for opioid addiction and traumatic brain injury. And I think it will have the most immediate effect on society to help addiction veterans.
Are there downsides?
Not that no. I mean, unless it's like a person has a bad trip,
yeah,
and they go through psychosis. But I think if everything is downside of Ibogaine is it could cause QT prolongations, but that's why they figured out it's in EKG when it's you beep 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 your heartbeat. So the QT is when it's between beats. There's a resting period.
Yeah, it's a little longer.
That could get prolonged.
Interesting.
And if a person has like heart condition before and there murmurs, it might not restart.
Right.
So first of all, that happens first of all, the person, if you pre-screen the person to see if they have any pre-existing heart conditions, if they don't, that never happens.
Yeah.
Even if they do, you could shock them. Right. Even if they do, that would still never happen. Maybe 1 in 10,000 people.
Right. Very,
and
very
even
common.
One of those 10,000 people, you can immediately shock them and restart the heart.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just these were learned over the past like 30 years of researching Ibogaine. Also, if they have a magnesium drip.
Yeah.
The magnesium allows it protects the heart somehow. It also keeps the person hydrated. So there's a lot of safety protocols that are put in place to make sure there don't have to be any side effects.
Right.
And I would just say a bad trip. But even if a bad trip, if you have a good professional who's
You can
there to
walk you
help
through it.
integration, you're good. Like you're
So
good.
they've covered all the bases.
Yeah, I think so. And that's what they're still.
So how do you so you're gonna
We need the FDA to want to look at it. The FDA has never wanted to even look at it. Now they're going to want to look at it. RFK has spoken about it.
right.
So I think they're going to look at it, and I think they'll approve it. And I think ayahuasca is good. Go to a place that has a religious exemption if you have some deep trauma,
Yeah.
or even not deep trauma, complex trauma,
Yeah.
which is like needling throughout your life. It's not like one major event. It's just like you were put down throughout your whole life.
Sure.
It could cause complex trauma. I think ayahuasca could really open a person up, and I think it's just like it's going to connect people with themselves again, with their own identities, and with each other. And I think that's what brings Mashiach.
I hope so. I hope you're right. Maybe we'll do another podcast. Maybe I feel like we didn't even I feel like we didn't even scratch the surface, but I feel like it's so much fun and time just slips by before you know it. But thank you so much for this time, and thanks for doing this. We talked to you. It's just a random introduction from a friend of mine that bummed a cigarette off you, and then he called me up. He goes, "Yeah, I bet it's really cool, dude. That really, I think he'd be a lot of fun in your podcast." So I'm really excited about this, and I think it's a lot of fun. I'd love to do this again. And I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate everything you're doing in this whole story. And I think that I think it's awesome. I think that the more people hear stories and the more that people understand that like everyone understand that life is hard for everyone, it gives everyone strength to kind of keep on pushing through and and like understanding like, hey, I'm not alone, and like I don't have to like just hearing that other people have gone through it themselves, just such an enormous benefit that it could just it's such a net positive.
Life is hard for everybody, but the hardness makes the good times even better.
Yeah.
Like you don't really appreciate a vacation if you don't work really hard.
Yeah.
Before the vacation.
Sure.
If you're just chilling all year,
yeah.
vacation is meaningless.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I appreciate the time.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. All right. We'll call it here. Thank you so much. Have a good night.